Story 1. I'm 27, and my wife, M, who's 26, just cheated on me and went behind my back with someone I thought was my friend. Let's call him J, also 27. Get this. We first met when I was just 22, at a friend's wedding. She was besties with the bride, and I was the groom's right-hand man. They sneakily sat us at the same table, hoping we'd hit it off. Fast forward, and bam, Betrayal City. When I first seen her, I was completely taken back by how beautiful she was, and when she sat down and we began to talk, we found out we had a lot of things in common. We clicked instantly. We talked for a while, ate the dinner, and took to the dance floor. We danced and drank through the night. We ended up kissing in the middle of the dance floor, and when we pulled away, our friends, the bride and groom, came up to us and asked what was up between us, that we're really excited to play matchmaker. We just shrugged it off and carried on with our night. We left not exchanging numbers, but about a week later, I got a text from her asking me out. Bride gave her my number. I, of course, said yes, and it turned into a relationship. The relationship was great, other than small arguments. We never really fought, and it was never anything really serious. I eventually asked her to marry me about 2 years into us dating, and we were married less than a year later. We were married for a little more than a year when it all came crashing down on me. Just before our first anniversary, there were little things that were irritating me. She became more guarded of her phone, girls' nights became more frequent, and our sex life was almost non-existent. I had brought this up on multiple occasions, but was brushed off and that I'm letting my insecurities get to me. She would continue go on, as if what I felt and tried to communicate didn't matter to her, so I became colder and colder. I stopped giving her a goodbye kiss as I leave for work, and unless it was something important, we hardly spoke. One night while she slept, I took her phone and laptop and skimmed through her texts, emails, and messenger apps and found nothing. And from reading stories on here, I checked her car. I grabbed her keys and looked in her car and found a second phone. I knew in that instant what was going on, but I wanted all the evidence for when I call her out. I didn't want her to say something like it had only happened once or anything stupid like that. I looked through the phone and found only one number. I read through every message. I connected the phone to my computer and printed out every message and every photo and spent the night researching divorce lawyers. I spent hours of my day in my at-home office reading bios of lawyers and found one that I liked and emailed him. But as it was a Saturday, he wasn't in the office. I then wanted to know who the guy was. So I grabbed my phone, typed the number I wanted to call, and pretend I'm Spectrum, because who doesn't have Spectrum? But Jay's contact popped up. It took me a minute to put two and two together, but when I did, I blew up. I was yelling and cursing in my office, and my wife opened the door to check on me, but when I see her, I told her to get the F out. She closed the door and went to our room. I had never cursed at my wife or raised my voice above a normal volume. All of day, I never left my office. I was just silently raging, just glaring at the wall. I called one of my friends, groom from the wedding, and tell him I need to go for a drink and asked if he'll come with me. He must have heard something in my voice because he asked if I was okay. I told him I wasn't and I really need to drink. So without word, I took all the printouts and left to go to the bar. I arrived first, ordered 4 shots of Jack and a beer. I was on my last shot when my friend, call him T, arrived and asked what's going on. I told him straight out M's cheating. He gave me sympathy, and I asked if he wanted to know with who and told him it was Jay. He became visibly irritated. He was the one that introduced me to Jay, and all he could say was, "I'm sorry," over and over. Jay and I were never super close. We wouldn't ask one another to hang out, but if we see each other at a get-together, we were friendly. I told T don't mention this to anyone, as I had just found out, and I haven't even spoken to M or a lawyer yet. I asked him not to tell his wife, and if she asked what was wrong with me to say I'm having problems at work, he agreed. We drank and talked for most of the night, then I called an Uber and went home around 3 a.m. It was the first time I looked at my phone since I called T, and there was missed calls, a bunch of texts all from M asking me where I was when I'd be home, and if I was okay. I got home and she was asleep on the couch. I just walked up to our bedroom and went to sleep. I woke up with her in the bed, so I got dressed and left the house. I went to go pick up my car and go to my office and buried myself in work for the day and went back home around 10 p.m. To my surprise, my wife was there to greet me, and she told me she had made me dinner. She asked if I wanted her to heat it up. I told her no, and went to bed. She followed soon after asking what's been wrong with me. I told her to leave me alone and that I wanted to sleep. She kept pestering me. Eventually, I snapped and yelled, "M, stop, I am trying to sleep, go away." The next morning, I received an email from the lawyer asking to meet later in the day, and I confirmed and got ready for my day. I went downstairs to leave, and M had made breakfast asking to talk. I made a small plate and sat down. She started by saying I've been acting different and going on and on about how I changed, and she wants to know why I told her work has been stressful, and soon it would be all over. I finished up and told her I've got to go. I went to my office and counted down the minutes to go meet the lawyer. When I left, I told my assistant I'm going out to lunch with a client. My wife would call my work sometimes, and left. The meeting with the lawyer went well, and I handed over all I had gathered on her, and the lawyer had told me, "Well, I'm sorry for all that's going on, but I'm happy you gathered all this information. You see, we live in an at-fault state, so your wife has no claim on most of your money." I told him I didn't even think about that. I was just thinking I've got to divorce her as soon as possible. He asked to keep the evidence, but I told him I'd prefer you to just make copies as I haven't told my wife I knew yet, and I don't want to hear her excuses. He agreed and had his assistant make copies. I asked when she will be served with papers. He told me about 2 weeks. I then thanked him and left. I went home to confront my wife when I arrived. She wasn't home. So I called her, no answer, called again. No answer. I texted her, "I don't give a F if you're writing Jay right now, get home, we need to talk." Lo and behold, she calls me not a minute later asking what I was talking about. All I told her was get home now. She arrives about 15 minutes later and I said to her, "Wow, look at that 15 minutes, that's about the same distance between here and Jay's, isn't it?" She looked at me dumbfounded. I gave her a minute to gather herself, but she was just looking at me and I said, "Well, nothing to say." She tried to deny and gaslight me and I let her continue on. She worked herself up and started to insult me. I slammed my fist on the table to shut her up and pulled out the evidence at first and showed it from the side and said, "Look at this mountain of things I gathered on you." Then I showed her each printout at a time. She then tells me to stop and started to cry. She tried to apologize and tells me she loved me. I said, "Honey, what happened to that energy you had before? You were so adamant on degrading and insulting me just a minute ago." She tried to hug me and tell me how sorry she is. I put my hand out and told her, "Don't touch me." She says, "Well, go to the bedroom and do whatever I like." I looked her deep in her eyes and told her, "Sweetheart, I will never touch you again. Do you want to know who else has these photos and messages? My lawyer. I'm divorcing you now. Get a bag, gather your clothes, and get the F out of my house." That was 3 days ago, and I haven't heard from her. I'm sorry about how long this is, and if there are any spelling errors. I'm curious to those have been where I'm at. What can I expect from here? Thank you for reading. Update 1. Hello? Let me first thank all who commented or messaged me. I truly appreciate the praise and advice you all given. I've tried to keep up with the comments, so if I didn't answer yours, I'm sorry. I hope I answer more of the common questions you all have asked in this update. If you haven't read the first part, go to my page. It's still there. After I posted the first part of this, you all have given me a ton of advice, so I followed most of it. This morning I planned on doing a bit of damage control of my life, so I scheduled an appointment with my doctor to get checked for STDs, and I have that appointment in 2 days. Next, I started contacting all the people close to me, my father and a few friends. They all have been really supportive, offering their own advice and asking if I need help with anything, but as I got this *** on lock, I declined. I then started to contact her family. I sent a text to her mom and dad thanking them for allowing me into their family and that I was grateful for all that they had done for me. But Em and I are getting divorced and that I would miss them terribly. Not really, they were very suffocating. And while they are great people, I'm happy I no longer have to deal with it. I then told them if they had any questions, feel free to ask. I didn't hear back from them for a while, so I moved on to M's sister. This kind of hurt because her sister and I were good friends, and I knew this would mess up that friendship. I texted her, "Hey, I'm sorry to have to text you this, but Em and I are going to get a divorce, and I wanted you to know. I want to thank you from day one. You accepted me as a brother. I will be around if you ever need anything from me." Around the time I sent that text, her parents responded back. I'll type up how the conversation went. P. Parents. We are so sorry to hear this. What happened? Why hasn't Em said anything to us? Me. Em has been in at least a year-long affair. I suspect it started before our wedding. I'm unsure why she hasn't reached out, but I think you should call her. She left the house. I figured she would have gone to you. P. No, we haven't heard from her. We'll call her. Thanks for letting us know. Are you sure she was having an affair? Me. I am positive. I found their texts. P. We're so sorry that she did that. Well, try and get in touch with her. After dealing with your family, I moved on to Jay's fiancé. I can't remember if I told you all that he is engaged in the first part. I know it was brought up in some of the comments. I thought this was going to be difficult, that Em and Jay would have conspired some master plan, but either Em didn't tell him I found out, or they're just idiots. I sent her a text around 2 p.m. and asked if we could meet for a coffee or something by 2:05. She agreed and told me to meet her at some gross hipster coffee shop across from her work at 2:30. I arrived first, ordered my horrible coffee, and waited for a few minutes. She walked in, ordered hers, and came and joined me. I told her, "There's no easy way to say what I'm about to tell you, so I'm just going to blurt it out. Jay has been cheating on you with my wife. It's been going on for more than a year." She was obviously shocked. So I then told her, I only found out a few days ago. I know I should have told you then, but I had a divorce to get started and my own pity to deal with. She asked how I found out. I told her everything that's in the first post. I then asked if she wanted to see the evidence I gathered and pulled out a binder. She grabbed the binder and skimmed through the messages and pictures and just started to silently cry. I told her she's more than welcome to take the binder, extra copies, if she wanted to confront Jay with it or use it to see if he would lie. She thanked me, stood up, took the binder, and I told her if she needs anything from me to let me know. She nodded her head and walked out looking very defeated. I know you all told me to just stay sober, keep a level head and whatnot, but my world just came crashing down on my head. I'm going to take this week to sit on my back porch, drink, smoke cigars, and blare music. After this week, I'll stop feeling sorry for myself, get back to my usual schedule. On a more positive note, I've already packed up most of her things, clothes, jewelry, etch I also threw in our wedding book, and every photo that has her in it in the boxes. If and when she comes back for her stuff, I don't want her here any longer than she needs to be also before you ask. No, I didn't ruin her clothes other than a few picture frames. Nothing's broken. As of right now, there's nothing else happening. I told everyone I needed to tell. My doctor's appointment is scheduled. My lawyer's hard at work to get me out of this nonsense, and 90% of her things are in boxes. I really don't know what's left if she stays out of my hair. This might be the smoothest divorce ever. Thank you for reading. Advice is always appreciated. Update 2. Hey everyone, I'm sorry I've been MIA for a while and didn't respond to comments and messages, but I think I've caught up and now for the update. So, since the update, I've been enjoying my pity party, drinking, and more drinking. I'd say this is my first semi-sober moment since I found out about everything, and can't really put into words how I feel. I guess numb is an accurate word. In the last update, I told you all I notified everyone, and the only one that didn't respond was M's sister, who I was very close to. Well, that night I wrote the update. I had continued my drinking binge after I posted and passed out on my back patio with a bottle and a few beer cans surrounding me, and woke up to the smell of breakfast being cooked. My first, though, was, oh Christ, M came back and thinks that breakfast was going to make up for what she's done. I worked myself up to a rage and threw myself out of the chair ready for a screaming match, but to my surprise, it was M's sister. Call her W. I stood there for a moment trying to calm myself back down, but when W seen I was awake, she sprinted to me and wrapped her arms around me. She didn't say anything to me, she just took my hand and led me to the table and put a plate in front of me. As I ate, she told me how sorry she was, and that when her sister showed up to her house and just said that we were having problems and it would be fine in a few days. Then told me that when I texted her that we were divorcing, she asked M if it would be fine. Why is he divorcing you? Apparently M just broke down and told M everything. I scoffed and said, there's no way she told you everything, and proceeded to tell her all that happened. W told me that M had said it was a one-time thing and that I was blowing it out of proportion. I told W that I have no intention of getting back together with M, and if that is why she's here, she's wasting her time. And if she's in contact with MW, needs to tell her to find a lawyer. She laughed and said she wasn't here for her sister. She was here for me. She told me that of course she'd be there for my sister, but that her and I are friends, and she wouldn't abandon me, especially when I didn't do anything wrong. I stood up and went to her side of the table and just hugged her. I was so worried that all this BS that's going on would ruin her and my friendship, and hearing her say that made me feel so much better. W stayed with me for 2 days, guest bedroom, you heathens, and left this morning as I am preparing to leave for my cabin. I had it before the marriage, M can't touch it. I was gathering my hunting and fishing equipment. She asked if she could join me, but I told her as much as I would like that she should probably go check in on her sister. She agreed, hugged me, and left. I am truly grateful to W for being there for me, and before any of you say she's into me, she's not. She's also 20, and that's way too young for me. It's just a really great friendship. I almost forgot to say I went to the doctor's, got tested, and the results should be in on Monday. I've reached out to Jay's fiancée a few times just to check on her. She tells me she's fine, and she doesn't know what to do. I told her if she wants to meet anytime next week so she could vent. I'm more than happy to listen. I'll be on here for a little bit, so if you have questions or advice, feel free to comment or message me, but I'll be leaving for the weekend. There's no internet out there, so I won't be around this weekend. I also want to say thank you all so much for reading, reaching out, and all the praise you've all given. You all have been a light in a truly dark time in my life. To any of you who are going through this, as I am, the only thing I can say is keep your head down. Focus on what you really want. If it's divorce or if you reconcile, set your goals one at a time in my case. Lawyer then doctor and notifying everyone close. Keep it off the internet though. Also set time aside to get your feelings out. Thank you again and sorry these updates are always so long. Update 3. Hello all, it's been a minute, but I thought I'd update on all the new happenings. If this is the first time you're seeing my posts, You can go to my page and see my other posts. You'll defiantly need the context. In my last post, I told you all about W coming to my house and staying for a few days. She left when I was leaving to go hunting at my cabin. Good news, I got a buck, a nice fat 8-pointer. I got him on my first day out there, which I am very happy about, as it left me the rest of my time to go fishing. I only caught 2, but they were decent size, so I made one my dinner and butchered the other. I spent the rest of my stay at the cabin cleaning my deer and enjoying the views of nature. Other than a drink or two a day, I spent my trip sober as I promised my drinking was only for last week. Now onto the last few days, I got a call from my doctor and I'm all clean. It's not such a shock as Em and I haven't had much passionate nights in a few months, but all the same, you can never be too sure. I reached out to Jay's fiance, but didn't hear back for some time. She eventually responded back, telling me she's staying with her family right now. She didn't really go into detail much, but her staying with her family, you can only assume as I do that that means it's not going so well. At least she's with family safe and with all the support that she could need. I told her if there's anything I can do, all she has to do is reach out. She asked me to meet and get coffee the following day, which I of course agreed to. The following day, we met at the same gross hipster coffee shop and talked for about 2 hours. We talked about everything that happened with Em, and she wanted to know what steps I was taking, if I was divorcing, or if there was any chance I would reconcile. I told her after someone cheats in my book, that's it. That the amount of selfishness and disrespect it takes to cheat, let alone for a year, she obviously didn't care for me. I asked her what her plan was. She told me she's confused about everything, that everything she thought was truth turned out to be lies. She wasn't sure what her next move should be, if she should move on, or if she should forgive him. I told her, if you could forgive someone for cheating on you for that amount of time, she's a better person than me. She told me all of her family was telling her that she should forgive him and go on to get married. I told her I was going to be blunt with her, and went on to say, just because it's what your family wants doesn't mean you need to follow along. Then said Jay obviously doesn't care about marriage and what it all means. He cheated on you, his fiancé, with my wife. If that doesn't show you, he's not marriage material. I told her she needed to do what she thought was right and not to have anyone other than herself make decision that will affect her life. I told her, when I found out, all I could do was think of a way my heart could trick my brain into thinking of some way I can accept it and forgive her, but I just couldn't do it. I also said I only talked to one person, but I had already made my decision and no one could change my mind. I bet when you went to stay with your family, you had a pretty good idea of what you were going to do, but you let too many people in, and they all gave their own take on it. I finished by telling her all she needed to do was to follow her gut, that her brain and heart will always lie to her. But if her gut feels something's off, 9 out of 10 times her gut's probably right. She soon after thanked me, and we left each other and went home. The following day, I got a message from my lawyer that M had successfully been served at work. I thanked him for all his work, especially in the time frame he's gotten it done. Not long after that, W called and told me M hasn't left her room all day, and she's sobbing in bed. I told her she was served and is probably realizing how bad she messed up. W asked me how the cabin was, and if I got anything. I told her everything I did and how my time was there. We talked for a moment and hung up, after I prepared myself and my house for my wife's explosion. I figured if there was any time, it would be soon, now that she's been served. So now I am waiting patiently, biding my time. I have Advil on standby for what I can only assume is going to be a bad ache, I told my friend, and he agreed if M showed up, he would race over to be a witness, just in case all else fails. I'm currently waiting for Hurricane M to tear through my house. If or when she does, I'll send out another update. Thank you all for reading. Update 4. Hello again, everyone. I know I posted only 2 days ago, but I have some news. I wasn't on here after I posted, but some wild S*** has happened, and couldn't find the time until now to get to the comments of my last post, so I'm sorry I haven't read through them. Quick run through from the top of everything that's happened so far, then I'll move on to the update for all those who are seeing my post for the first time. My wife was doing the typical signs your partner is having an affair, so I snooped and found a second phone in her car. I immediately started looking for a lawyer, got one, and started the legal process. Confronted my wife, and after a fight, verbal, she packed a bag and left. I then contacted all those who are close to us, my friends, my father, and her family. Then I contacted her AP's fiancé and told her all that I knew and can prove. She then was served at work 2 days ago at her job, and now you're up to date. About an hour or so after I posted last, I was waiting for M to show up at the house and go ballistic. I had no real reason she would do anything, but given everything that's happened, I never really knew the women. I went around to all the cameras that I had up and made sure they were working properly, both the ones inside and outside. I called my friend letting him know that M was served today, and if she shows up, he needs to get to my house as soon as he could. I am not going to jail because of this woman. Turns out I was right because M had shown up at the house banging on the door, screaming to let her in. I immediately called my friend and W to get here because M is beating down my door. She was cursing my name, begging me to let her in, calling me every name in the book and how I could be so heartless. Blah, blah, blah. She's not wrong because the entire time she was screaming and banging on the door, all I could do was laugh. I then wondered why she didn't just walk in. She still had keys, at least to my knowledge. When my friend showed up, she was still screaming and cursing, so he started to record on his phone and stayed in his truck. But this idiot brought his wife with him, M's friend. So she got out and tried to calm her down. She walked up to M, putting her arms around her and trying to get her to talk to her. M then slapped her across the face, screaming at her to mind her own business. That made my friend, who now has a video of it, to call the police. She continued to scream and curse until the police got there. When they did, she tried so hard to play the victim. One of the two officers walked up to her and she started to cry and tell them I hit her and threw her out of the house. My friend and his wife had told the other officer that when they came to the house, she was yelling and banging on the door, so they couldn't confirm that I didn't do what M said I had done. After that officer was done talking with my friend and his wife, he came to my door, and when I opened it, M said, "There, that's him. He hit me. I want him arrested." He started to put me in cuffs when I told him, "I can prove that she's lying to you. All I need is my phone." The officer stopped and told me to show him the view from the outside cameras. After reviewing the video, he apologized for jumping to conclusions and automatically assuming I was the one in the wrong. I told him I didn't fault him, but he then told me that they received 15 calls total from my neighbors, and apparently during M's rant, she had screamed out, "He hit me!" So the officers had already made their judgment. After having to deal with the police for about a half hour, M ended up being put in cuffs and charged with disturbing the peace, public intoxication, and a DUI. As the police took M to the car, W showed up and came to me asking what had happened. I showed her the video on my phone of it all. The officer then came up to me to hand me the case number and some other paperwork. W starting to ask questions about the charges, so I just went back inside. W followed soon after and sat next to me. She told me she left her house for 10 minutes to run to the store, but when she got back, M was no longer in the living room, so she thought M had gone to bed after she drank too much wine. W and I talked for a while and she asked me if she could stay the night. I said she was welcome anytime. She told me that M had to spend the night in jail. I don't know why, but they could bail her out in the morning. She told me that when I went back inside, she called her parents to let them know what was happening and to see if they could bail M out because W doesn't have that kind of money. We had a beer together and soon went to bed. When I woke up in the morning, W and already left to meet with her parents. I haven't heard from MW or their parents, but I don't think it's a fun conversation. Update 5. Hello, all. It's been a little over a week since I've posted, and I have some small news. If you didn't see my last update, that's because it was taken down. I don't know why, but I'll give you a rundown of all that happened. I'll try and keep it short and sweet and move on to the update. So before my wife was served, I had told a friend it was happening and told him to be on standby just in case she came over. I wanted him there as a witness. Later in the day, my lawyer told me she was served at work, and a few hours later, my wife was banging on my door. I called my friend as soon as I heard her. I also called W and told her she should come over because her sister is beating on my door. Soon after I got off the phone, my friend arrived and started recording my wife's tirade from his truck. He had brought his wife for some reason, and she got out to try and calm my wife down. She ran up to her and tried to pull her away, but my wife turned around and smacked her, telling her to stay out of her business. When my wife hit his, he stopped recording and called the police. It took about maybe 10 minutes for them to get there, and when they did, my wife flipped a switch and started saying I abused her. When I stepped outside to talk to the cops, he immediately started to put me into cuffs until I told him I have cameras that show she's lying. He stopped and allowed me to pull out my phone, and he watched the entire video showing all that she said was just one big lie. She started going off again, and the cop arrested her and had her take a breathalyzer. As they took her to their car, W pulled up asking what was happening. She came and stood next to me, and when the cop brought the paperwork and to apologize to me for jumping to conclusions, I just told him I understand, it's no big deal, then went inside. W stayed behind to get the full story from him, and soon after joined me. She asked to stay over because M will have to stay overnight in jail. When I woke up, W was already gone, and that pretty much sums up my last update. I haven't heard from M since that night, but my lawyer was contacted by hers letting him know he'll be representing M. Finally, we can start this process. I also reached out to Jay's fiancée to see if she has any news on her front. We only texted back and forth, but she told me she has kicked him out of her house, and had her father and brother pack up all his thing and drop it off at his house. She told me her dad and brother wanted to beat him, but she asked them not to, and that she just wants to put all this behind her and move on. She thanked me for checking on her and tells me her close friends are there for her when she needs them. I sent her the link to my Reddit page so she can see all the support you all give to me and to her. On Friday, the moment I got off work, I raced home. My plan was to go back to my cabin for the weekend when I arrived. W was in my driveway. She wanted to grab her sister's things and had a list of what my wife expected. I skimmed through it and all, but one thing was already in a box or sitting in my garage waiting to be picked up. I told her I'm not transporting or touching anything that's in here. I'm not going to be responsible if M wants to claim I destroyed her stuff. I told her I'd pay for a moving company to come and pack and take all her things for her, because right now I'm going to my cabin and don't have the time to deal with M's S asterisk asterisk asterisk. She said that would be great and hopes I have fun. She took a box of M's clothes and put it in her car. She then turned to me and asked if she could tag along this time. I said, sure. Why don't you go back home, drop off the box, and pack a bag for herself? By the time I went to the store and packed up the truck she was pulling up, I locked up my house and took off to the cabin with W. The weekend went really well. The last time I was up there, I realized what a gem that place is. It has a beautiful view and is completely secluded, so I don't have to deal with any people. It's a place you can truly breathe in and relax. On Monday, I called a moving company, and by today, Tuesday, 3 guys and a big truck pulled up and started loading. I had every box open and recorded as they closed the box and picked it up. I took pictures of all the furniture and recorded as the movers loaded it. I thanked them all for tolerating me and tipped them each an extra $50. I then sent all the recordings and pictures to my lawyer and carried on with my day. The house seems empty but also clean without all her things here. When I started this process, my lawyer told me not to get rid of anything that could be considered shared, so I put most of the furniture in a storage unit. I've been sleeping in the guest room since she left, so up until I started writing this post, I've been buying all new furniture. I'll most likely be keeping the majority of it in the garage now that I have the space. I won't be keeping the house even if I win it in the divorce it holds to many now bad memories. Update 6. Hey Reddit, it's been a while since I've posted I coach high school baseball. So between getting this divorce done, dealing with my STBX, and coaching these kids, I don't have much free time at the moment. Quite a bit has happened, so this might be a long post, so please bear with me. Since it's been a little over a month since I've posted, I'll give a small rundown of what all had happened in my last post, in case you've forgotten. If this is the first time seeing my post, or if you need to go back to reread something, it's all in my profile still. So we left off with M being arrested after striking my friend's wife and telling the police I assaulted her, and after showing them the video of all that happened, I was let go, and she was taken to jail on a variety of charges. I didn't hear from M for a while until her lawyer reached out to mine, letting him know that he'd be representing M and doing the lawyer-to-lawyer formalities. I reached out to Jay's fiancée asking what was happening and found out she had kicked him out, and her brother and father took all his things to Jay's new place. I planned on going to my cabin after work, but found W in my driveway waiting for me. She needed to pick some things up for her sister. After telling her I wouldn't be touching any of her things, I told her I would pay for a moving company the following week. W asked if she could come up to my cabin with me that time, and I agreed, mostly due to everyone telling me she might be needing a break from her sister, and the last time she asked me, I said no. I documented everything with the movers, making sure she couldn't claim I broke something she deems as special, and sent everything to my lawyer. That's pretty much all that had happened in the last post, and now the update. A few days after the movers took her things to M, my lawyer received some paperwork saying I damaged her things and demanding I pay her $500 or she would be taking me to court over it. My lawyer sent her all the videos and pictures asking exactly where the damages were that he claimed I made. He told me all this does is tell the judge we'll get how unhinged she is, and it might be a headache now, but when it's time for court, this will all be perfect evidence. I don't think her lawyer was ready for how meticulous I am, and that I will photograph and document everything. When I found out about my wife's affair, I was for some reason pulled to this page and read all of the horror stories about the things these people's former spouses did to them, and I absolutely refuse to be another one of those stories. I've prepared myself for almost every outcome and accusation she could make. I wouldn't put anything past her at this point. M had called me once every other day, but I never pick up. If she leaves a voicemail, I don't bother listening to it. I just send it to my lawyer. Every time I send my lawyer something, he always tells me, "You are a lawyer's wet dream. You listen to everything I say. You gathered a mountain of evidence on your own. I have yet to have a client that has done so well." I wasn't exaggerating when I said he says that every time, but it also puts a smile on my face every time. Getting that reassurance from him that I'm doing everything the right thing Just makes me feel a little bit better about this whole situation. About 2, maybe 3 weeks ago, my lawyer told me that we have enough evidence to bury her outside of court, and if it fails, it would look good on us for trying. So we set a date a week ago to meet in a neutral lawyer's office. Before we met, he told me no matter what, don't react to anything that M might say, and that we do will be recorded for a judge will read if it goes to court. We arrived in the early morning and went into the office. To my surprise, she was already there waiting with her lawyer. We walked in, and the lawyers started greeting each other. M and I sat there silently waiting for what was going to happen. M's lawyer started by asking what we had to offer. Mine scoffed and said, with the mountain of evidence of the infidelity and M's inappropriate behavior, after the only thing we'll offer is half of the selling price of the home and half of the savings account. That's more than any judge would award you. Basically, what you came into the marriage with, you'll be leaving with. Then he looked directly at M and said, if you decide to go to court, I'll put every message making you read it all out loud, then I will put every photo up for all into court to see. Censored, but he didn't say that at the time, and make you describe in detail what you're doing in each photo. Then I'll bring up your recent charges and play the video that was taken that night. M started to tear up looking at me, asking if there was anything she could do to make this right. I said, you've been cheating on me since before our wedding. All I can prove is a few weeks before the wedding, but I expect it was much longer. There is nothing at all you could possibly do to make me forget or forgive you for what you've done. Sign the papers, it's more than you deserve, and I want to be done with this whole sham you created. She cried obnoxiously for 15 minutes, having to excuse herself to the restroom. When she returned, she was still in tears, but signed the papers and walked out not long after. So in about a month, everything will be filed, and all I'll have left to do is sell the house. I want to thank you all for reading and all of the advice you've given. Also, shout out to the strong, successful male who's been bringing what's happened to me on YouTube. I've read through most of the comments on there, taking the advice from there as well. I don't see anything else happening, but I could be wrong, and if it does, I'll let you know, but this will probably be my last post. So again, thank you all. I hope what's happened to me has helped at least one person out there. Story 2. My mother gave me up so she can play mommy to her new family. Now years later wants to reconnect cause she's done something. Hey Reddit. My mom abandoned me at 12 to play house with her new family. 18 years later, she showed up needing a kidney. I had some thoughts about that. Buckle up, this gets wild. I'm Jake, 30 male, and this story starts when I was about 11 years old. My parents split when I was 9. Standard divorce stuff at first. Dad got me weekends, mom had me during the week. Everyone pretended to be civil at school events while secretly hating each other's guts. Dad was a plumber. Good guy, worked hard, showed up to my baseball games covered in grease stains because he'd come straight from a job site. The kind of dad who'd help you build a treehouse on a Saturday and actually knew how to use the tools properly. He lived in this small 2-bedroom apartment across town that smelled like coffee and sawdust. Mom worked as a medical secretary at a family practice clinic. She'd always been obsessed with status and appearances. Even when they were married, she'd complain about Dad's job being beneath us and how we lived in that neighborhood, like we were in some war zone instead of a perfectly normal middle-class area. After the divorce, she got worse. Started dressing differently, going out more, complaining about every little thing I did. I was just a kid trying to navigate my parents splitting up, but apparently I was cramping her style. When I was 11, she started dating this guy named Douglas, investment banker, or financial advisor, or something equally boring that paid well. The kind of guy who wore designer watches and talked about his car like it was his firstborn child. He drove a BMW and lived in one of those gated communities where all the houses look exactly the same but cost $500,000. I hated him immediately. Not because he was dating my mom, I'd accepted that was going to happen eventually, but because he treated me like an inconvenient piece of furniture that came with the apartment. He'd show up to pick up mom and barely acknowledge I existed. If I was watching TV, he'd ask mom if the kid could go to his room so they could have adult conversation. If I wanted to tell mom about my day at school, he'd interrupt with something about his work or some restaurant they should try. Just constant little reminders that I didn't belong in whatever new life they were building. Mom ate it up, though. She'd giggle at his stupid jokes and touch his arm like he was the most fascinating person on the planet. Meanwhile, I'd be sitting right there, and she'd forget I existed. 6 months into their relationship, she sat me down for a big talk. That's never good. Nothing good ever starts with a parent wanting to have a serious conversation with you. Turns out Douglas had proposed. They were getting married. And here's the thing. Douglas had 2 kids from his previous marriage. Twin girls, Sophie and Claire, who were 8 at the time. He had full custody because his ex-wife had moved to Europe for work and basically abandoned them. We're going to be a real family now, Mom said, like our previous family had been some kind of practice run that didn't count. I asked where I'd sleep since his house only had 3 bedrooms. Master, one for the twins, one for his home office. She got this uncomfortable look and explained they were working on solutions. Maybe converting the garage or finishing the basement eventually. Eventually. Great. The wedding happened fast. 3 months later, they got married at this fancy venue with an ice sculpture and a string quartet. I was technically in the wedding party, but felt like an afterthought. The twins were flower girls and got all this attention. I stood there in an uncomfortable suit that didn't fit right, while everyone fawned over how cute the girls looked. At the reception, I sat at the kids' table with the twins and some random cousins I'd never met. Mom and Douglas were at the head table, looking like they'd won the lottery. I watched her laugh and dance and play the perfect stepmother to those girls, and something in my chest felt hollow. That's when things really went downhill. Moving into Douglas's house was like being demoted from family member to house guest. The twins got the big bedroom with the attached bathroom and walk-in closet. Douglas's home office remained untouched. I got a fold-out couch in what was basically a storage room off the garage. Not even a real room, just a space where they kept Christmas decorations and old furniture, with a couch that pulled out into a bed that smelled like mothballs and had springs that dug into your back. It's temporary, Mom promised. Just until we figure out the basement renovation. The basement renovation never happened. That couch was my bed for the next year. School was my escape. I'd leave early, stay late for any club or activity that would have me. Baseball practice, chess club, even volunteered to help the janitor sometimes, just to avoid going back to that house. The janitor, Mr. Peterson, was actually pretty cool. He'd let me organize supplies in the storage room and would talk to me about sports and normal stuff. At home, I became invisible. Mom's entire world revolved around Sophie and Claire. She'd make them elaborate breakfasts, pancakes shaped like animals, fresh fruit, the works. I'd get a bowl and a box of cereal. She'd spend hours helping them with homework, making sure they had everything they needed for school, attending every single one of their activities. Me? I was lucky if she remembered to sign my permission slips. Douglas was even worse. He made it crystal clear I was an outsider in his house. He had rules for everything, and they all seemed designed to make my life harder. No TV after 8 p.m., no friends over without 2 weeks' notice, no eating in unauthorized areas, which was basically anywhere comfortable. But the twins? They could do whatever they wanted. They'd watch movies until midnight, have friends over constantly, leave snacks all over the house. When I pointed out the double standard, Douglas would say something about me being older and needing to set a good example. I was 12. They were 9. What kind of example was I supposed to set from my storage room bed? The worst part was watching Mom transform into a completely different person. She'd always been kind of high maintenance, but with Douglas, she became this Stepford wife who catered to his every whim and fawned over his daughters like they were royalty. She'd spend hours doing the twins' hair in elaborate braids. She'd take them shopping for new clothes constantly. She'd throw them birthday parties that looked like they cost more than Dad made in a month, and she'd post about it all over social media. My beautiful girls. So blessed with my family. Being a mom to these angels. I wasn't in the photos. I wasn't mentioned. I just didn't exist in her new narrative. One night when I was 12, I overheard a conversation I wasn't supposed to hear. I'd gotten up to use the bathroom around 11 p.m. and heard voices from their bedroom. The door was cracked open slightly. Douglas was saying something about the situation with your son. My ears perked up immediately. He's not fitting in with the family dynamic, Douglas said. The girls are confused about why he's always sulking around. It's creating a negative environment. I wasn't sulking. I was just existing in their house. And apparently that was too much. Mom made some soft response I couldn't hear clearly. Then Douglas said something that made my stomach drop. Maybe he'd be happier with his father. I mean, be honest. You barely see him anyway. He's clearly not adjusting to our family structure. The girls need stability, and having a moody teenager around isn't helping anyone. There was a long pause. Then Mom said, in this quiet voice I'd never heard before, "You might be right. Maybe it would be better for everyone." I stood frozen in that hallway, my 12-year-old brain trying to process what I'd just heard. My own mother was discussing giving me away like I was a pet they'd decided was too much trouble. I went back to my storage room couch and didn't sleep the rest of the night. 2 weeks later, Mom sat me down for another one of her talks. She had this gentle, sympathetic look on her face that made me want to throw up. "Honey, Douglas and I have been thinking about what's best for you," she started. Red flag right there. When adults start talking about what's best for you, they're usually about to do something that's best for them. She explained that I didn't seem happy there. I wasn't bonding with my stepsisters. The living situation wasn't ideal. And Dad had a bigger apartment now. 2 bedrooms, so I'd have my own actual room. We think you'd be happier living with your father full-time, she said. We'd still do visits, of course, weekends, holidays, all of that, but your primary residence would be with him. She was phrasing it like a gift, like she was doing me a favor by shipping me off. I asked about the basement renovation she'd promised. She got this uncomfortable look and said they decided to turn it into a playroom for the twins instead. They needed space for their toys and art supplies. So there it was. My mom was choosing her new family over me. She was picking her stepdaughters and their father over her actual son. And she was trying to frame it like it was for my benefit. What if I don't want to leave? I asked. Even though I kind of did want to leave that miserable house. She got that tight-lipped look that meant the decision was already made. Jake, this is what's best for the family. You're old enough to understand that sometimes we have to make difficult choices. The family, not our family. The family. She'd already decided which family she belonged to, and I wasn't in it. I moved in with Dad the next month. He was thrilled to have me full-time, though I could tell he was trying to hide how angry he was at Mom. He'd gotten a bigger place specifically so I'd have my own room. He bought me new furniture and let me decorate it however I wanted. He actually showed up to my baseball games and school events. For the first time in over a year, I felt like someone actually wanted me around. The visits with Mom that she'd promised never really materialized. At first, she'd make excuses. The twins had a recital, Douglas's family was visiting, they had plans she'd forgotten about. Then the excuses got weaker. She was tired. It wasn't a good weekend, maybe next time. By the time I was 13, I was seeing her maybe once every 2 months. And even then, it felt obligatory. She'd take me to lunch, ask superficial questions about school, check her phone constantly, and then drive me back to Dad's place looking relieved that her duty was done. I stopped trying to have real conversations with her. What was the point? She'd made her choice, and I was learning to live with it. High school was better. Dad's apartment was close to a good school, and I made actual friends. Joined the baseball team properly, worked part-time at a hardware store, dated a girl named Rachel, who thought my dad was hilarious. I built a life that had nothing to do with my mom's perfect little replacement family. Dad never said a bad word about Mom, which I respected. Even when I'd complain about her forgetting my birthday or canceling plans, he'd just say something about adults making mistakes and how I had to focus on my own future. He was the one who pushed me to apply to trade school programs, who helped me get my electrician's apprenticeship, who believed I could build something real. Meanwhile, Mom's social media was a constant highlight reel of her new family. Sophie and Claire's dance recitals, family vacations to Disney, Douglas's promotion, their new kitchen renovation, birthday parties that looked like magazine spreads. She was living her best life, and I wasn't part of the picture. Literally. She'd post family photos from holidays and I just wasn't in them. It was like she'd erased her first attempt at motherhood and was pretending the twins were her first and only kids. When I graduated high school, she showed up for about an hour, took a few photos, congratulated me, and left early because the twins had some event she couldn't miss. I watched her drive away and felt nothing. No anger, no sadness. Just this empty acceptance that this was how things were. Dad took me out for steak and told me he was proud. We toasted with soda and talked about my electrician apprenticeship starting that summer. That's what family is supposed to feel like. I threw myself into work. Turned out I was actually good at electrical work. Had a knack for understanding systems and solving problems. By the time I was 22, I'd passed my journeyman exam. By 25, I had my master electrician license and was making solid money doing residential and commercial work. Dad helped me buy a small house when I was 27. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I fixed it up myself, updated all the wiring, renovated the kitchen and bathroom. It felt good building something with my own hands, creating a space that was actually mine. I'd been dating this woman named Jessica for about 2 years. She was a teacher, smart and funny, and she didn't care that I worked with my hands for a living. Her parents liked me, treated me like family at their dinners, asked about my work with actual interest. That's when I realized what I'd been missing. Adults who actually cared about you without conditions. Life was good, really good. I had work I enjoyed, a girlfriend I loved, my own house, and Dad just a few miles away. I'd built something real out of the broken pieces of my childhood. Then, after nearly 18 years of minimal contact, my phone rang with my mother's number. I stared at it for 3 rings before answering. We hadn't spoken in almost a year. Not since an awkward lunch where she'd spent the whole time talking about the twins' college plans and Douglas's golf handicap. Jake? Her voice sounded weird, thin, strained. Yeah, it's me. I need to talk to you about something. Can we meet? It's important. Important. The last time something was important, she'd shipped me off to live with Dad. But I was 30 now, not 12. I could handle whatever this was. Sure, when? Tomorrow? I could come to you. She'd never offered to come to me before. That should have been my first warning sign. We met at a coffee shop near my house the next afternoon. I got there first and grabbed a table in the back. When she walked in, I barely recognized her. She'd aged hard. The polished, perfect woman from all those social media posts looked thin and tired. Her clothes were still expensive but hung on her like she'd lost weight. There were dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. Jake, she said, sitting down across from me. Thank you for meeting me. You said it was important. She ordered coffee she didn't drink, kept fidgeting with her purse strap. Finally, she looked at me with this expression that I couldn't quite read. I have kidney disease, she said. Stage 4. It's been progressing for about 3 years, but it's gotten worse. My kidneys are failing, and I need a transplant. I sat there processing this information. My first thought, and I'm not proud of this, was wondering why she was telling me. We barely knew each other at this point. I was basically a stranger she'd given birth to 30 years ago. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, because what else do you say? I've been on the transplant list for a year, but the wait times are long. 5, maybe 6 years. I don't have that long. She paused. I need a living donor. There it was. The real reason for this meeting. The twins were tested, she continued. Neither of them are compatible. Douglas isn't a match either. I've had extended family tested, my sister, my cousins, and no luck. But you, she looked at me with this desperate hope. You're my son. There's a much higher chance you'd be compatible. I just stared at her. After 18 years of being basically erased from her life, she wanted me to give her a kidney. I know we haven't been as close as we should be, she said, which was the understatement of the century. But you're my son. Family helps family. That's what we do. Family helps family. This woman who'd chosen her new family over me when I was 12, who'd missed my high school graduation for a dance recital, who'd erased me from her social media and her life, she was sitting here talking about family, like she had any right to use that word with me. I need to think about this, I said. Of course, I understand this is a lot, but Jake, her voice cracked. I'm scared. The doctors say if I don't get a transplant soon, I might have less than a year. Part of me, the part that was still that 12-year-old kid hoping his mom would choose him, felt something. Sympathy maybe, or just the automatic response to seeing someone in pain. But the larger part, the part that had spent 18 years learning to live without her, felt nothing but cold calculation. I'll think about it, I repeated. This isn't something I can decide right now. She pulled out her phone. Can I give you my doctor's information? They can explain the process, answer any questions you have about compatibility testing, and what the donation would involve. I took the information to be polite. We sat there for another awkward 10 minutes while she talked about her treatment, her prognosis, how scared Sophie and Claire were. Not once did she ask about my life, my work, if I was seeing anyone. It was all about her crisis and what I could do to fix it. When we finally left, she hugged me. I stood there stiff as a board while she squeezed me, whispering, thank you, like I'd already agreed to something. I drove home in a daze and immediately called Dad. She wants what? He exploded when I told him. A kidney. She needs a transplant and wants me to get tested to see if I'm compatible. The silence on the other end lasted so long I thought the call had dropped. Then Dad let out a long breath. Son, I can't tell you what to do here. This is your decision, but I want you to really think about what you're being asked to give. This isn't lending someone $50. This is major surgery, permanent changes to your body, real risks. I know. And I want you to think about who's asking. Not who you wish was asking, but who she actually is. The woman who gave you up because you didn't fit into her new life, who hasn't been a mother to you in 18 years, who only came back because she needs something from you. He wasn't wrong. That night, I talked to Jessica about it. She listened to the whole story. The divorce, the remarriage, being shipped off to Dad's, the 18 years of barely existing in my mother's life. What do you want to do? She asked when I was done. I don't know. Part of me thinks I should help because it's the right thing to do. But another part of me is angry that she only came back because she needs something. Both of those feelings are valid, Jessica said. But let me ask you this. If you donate and save her life, what do you think happens after? Do you think she suddenly becomes the mother you needed when you were 12? Or do you think she takes what she needs and goes back to her perfect family while you recover from major surgery? I didn't have an answer to that. Over the next few days, Mom started calling regularly. At first, it was just checking in, seeing if I'd thought about it. Then, it escalated to sending me articles about living donation, statistics about success rates, testimonials from donors talking about how fulfilling it was to save a life. Then, the texts started from numbers I didn't recognize. Sophie and Claire, the twins who'd gotten everything I'd been denied. Sophie: "Hi, Jake. This is Sophie. Mom told us about you maybe being able to help. We're really scared. She's all we have." Claire: "Please consider helping our mom. She's the best mom in the world and we can't lose her." The best mom in the world. I wondered if they knew about me at all, or if I was just some distant relative who'd conveniently showed up with compatible organs. Then Douglas called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won out. "Jake, we need to talk about your mother's situation," he said, skipping any greeting. "What about it?" "She needs this transplant. The girls are devastated. This family needs you to step up and do the right thing." This family. Not our family. This family. Just like Mom used to say. "I'm thinking about it," I said. "Thinking about it? Your mother is dying." What's there to think about? Whether I want to undergo major surgery for someone who abandoned me when I was a kid. The silence was sharp. Then Douglas said, in this cold voice, "That's ancient history. You're an adult now. Stop being selfish and help your mother." I hung up on him. The pressure campaign continued. My aunt called, saying Mom had always loved me and families should stick together. Cousins I barely remembered sent Facebook messages about the importance of family. Even people from Mom's church group started reaching out, talking about Christian duty and forgiveness. It was overwhelming, but it also made me realize something. Not a single one of these people had cared where I was or how I was doing for the past 18 years. Now they all had opinions about what I owed to the woman who'd given me up. I decided to do something I probably should have done sooner. I went to talk to someone who knew about organ donation, not emotionally, but medically and legally. A buddy of mine, Carson, was a nurse at the hospital. I called him up and asked if we could talk. "Kidney donation is serious business," Carson explained over lunch. "It's major surgery with real risks: infection, bleeding, blood clots, reactions to anesthesia. Most people do fine, but most isn't all. Plus, living with one kidney means permanent lifestyle changes. You have to be more careful about certain medications. You're at higher risk for high blood pressure and kidney disease yourself down the line. What about recovery? 6 to 8 weeks before you're back to normal work, assuming you don't have complications. That's 6 to 8 weeks of lost income if you're self-employed, which you are. And there's no guarantee your relationship with your mother improves after. In fact, in my experience, when family dynamics are already bad, going through something this intense often makes them worse." That night, I made a list. 2 columns. Reasons to donate, reasons not to. Reasons to donate. It's my biological mother. I could save her life. I'd avoid family guilt and pressure. It's technically the right thing to do. Reasons not to. She abandoned me when I was 12. She chose her new family over me repeatedly. She's only back because she needs something: major surgery with real risks, permanent changes to my body, lost income during recovery. No guarantee of compatibility anyway. Even if I donate, nothing suggests our relationship will improve. I don't owe her anything. The list wasn't even close. I called Mom and asked to meet again. This time I picked the location, a park near my house where we could talk privately. She showed up looking hopeful. I hated that I was about to disappoint her, but I'd made my decision. "I'm not getting tested," I said, before she could even sit down. Her face fell. "What? Why not?" "Because I don't want to. This is major surgery with real risks, and I'm not willing to go through that for someone who hasn't been a mother to me in 18 years. "But I'm your mother," she said, like that word meant something between us. "No, you were my mother. Past tense. You stopped being my mother when you chose Douglas and his daughters over me. You stopped being my mother when you shipped me off because I didn't fit into your perfect new family. You stopped being my mother every time you missed my events, forgot my birthday, or erased me from your life. I never meant to hurt you," she started. "But you did. For 18 years, you hurt me by not being there. And now you show up asking me to give you a part of my body? That's not how this works." She started crying. "I'm dying, Jake. Doesn't that matter to you at all?" "Of course it matters. I'm not a monster. But your medical emergency doesn't erase 18 years of you treating me like I didn't exist. It doesn't undo all the times you chose them over me. It doesn't make us family just because you need something. Please," she begged. "I know I wasn't perfect, but I'm trying to make things right now. Let me make things right." You can't make things right by asking me for organs. That's not how it works. If you wanted to make things right, you should have done it years ago. When I graduated high school. When I got my first real job. When I bought my house. You had plenty of opportunities to be my mother again, and you chose not to take them. You don't get to show up now and demand that I save you. So you're just going to let me die? You're not dying because of me. You're dying because you have kidney disease. I'm not responsible for that, and I'm not responsible for fixing it. You have a whole family that you chose over me. Let them figure it out. I stood up to leave. She grabbed my arm. Jake, please, think about Sophie and Claire. They need their mother. And there it was. Even now, even when she was begging for her life, she was making it about them. Then I hope they find a donor, I said, pulling my arm away. But it's not going to be me. I walked away from her crying in that park and didn't look back. The aftermath was immediate and ugly. My phone exploded with messages from family members calling me selfish, cruel, heartless, telling me I was condemning my own mother to death, that I'd regret this for the rest of my life. Douglas called from yet another number I didn't have blocked. You're killing her, you know that? You're murdering your own mother because you can't get over the past. I'm not killing anyone. I'm just not volunteering to undergo major surgery for someone who abandoned me. That's not the same thing. She's dying, he screamed. Then maybe you should have treated her son better when she had the chance, I said, and hung up. The twins sent more messages. These were nastier, less about begging and more about attacking. Sophie, you're a horrible person. How can you just let someone die when you could help? Claire, I hope you can live with yourself knowing you killed our mom. I blocked them both. My aunt tried the manipulation approach. Your mother made mistakes, but don't you want to be the bigger person? Show her you're better than she was? I didn't respond. The only person who supported me completely was Dad. He called the day after my conversation with Mom. How you holding up? He asked. I'm okay. Feel like a bad person, but I'm okay. You're not a bad person. You're a person with boundaries. There's a difference. Everyone thinks I'm letting her die. Everyone didn't live through what you lived through. They don't get a vote in what you do with your body. He paused. I'm proud of you, son. I know that doesn't help with the guilt, but I'm proud you stood up for yourself. That helped more than he knew. Jessica was my rock through all of it. She screened calls, blocked numbers, and physically stood between me and a family member who showed up at my house one night to talk sense into me. This is harassment, she told Douglas when he tried to push past her at my front door. Leave now or I'm calling the police. He left, but not before calling me a murderer one more time. The social media campaign was something else. Family members started posting vague things about the importance of family and people who refused to help their loved ones. Some were less vague and posted directly about organ donation and how anyone who could help but chose not to was basically committing murder. I stayed off social media completely, deleted the apps from my phone. Whatever they were saying, I didn't want to see it. 3 weeks after my conversation with Mom in the park, Dad called with news. I heard through the grapevine that your mother found a donor. My stomach dropped. She did? Yeah. Some organization that helps match living donors with recipients. Apparently, she's been on multiple lists, and one finally came through. She's having the surgery next week. Relief flooded through me so fast I had to sit down. She'd found another donor. I wasn't responsible for whether she lived or died. The guilt that had been crushing me for weeks suddenly lifted. That's good, I managed. That's really good. Yeah, Dad said. Thought you'd want to know. I didn't go to the hospital, didn't send flowers or cards. Just went about my life and tried to pretend the past few weeks hadn't happened. The surgery was successful according to the Family Gossip Network. Mom's kidney function improved, and her prognosis looked good. Sophie and Claire posted grateful messages on social media about the angel donor who'd saved their mother's life. Not a single mention of the son who'd said no. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. 2 months after the surgery, my doorbell rang on a Saturday morning. I opened it to find Mom standing there, looking healthier than she had in our previous meetings, but still thin. Jake, she said, can we talk? Every instinct told me to close the door, but curiosity won out. What do you want? I wanted to thank you, she said, which wasn't what I expected. The donor, he was a stranger who saw my story online and volunteered. Because of him, I'm going to live. And I realized something through all of this. I waited. I realized that I don't have a relationship with my son. Not really. You were right about everything you said. I chose my new family over you, and that was wrong. I was a bad mother, and I'm sorry. The apology felt hollow, too late and too convenient now that she had what she needed from someone else. Okay, I said. I want to fix things between us. I want to be your mother again, if you'll let me. Why now? Because you feel guilty? Because you almost died and had some epiphany? Because I realized I've been running from my mistakes instead of facing them. I convinced myself that you were better off with your father, that my new family needed me more, that the past was past. But you were right. I abandoned you, and I want to make it right. I looked at this woman who'd given birth to me, who'd pushed me out of her life when I was 12, who'd only come back when she needed something. I looked at her and felt nothing. I appreciate the apology, I said, but I don't think I can be your son anymore. That ship sailed a long time ago. Jake, I built a life without you. A good life. I have a father who actually shows up. I have a girlfriend who loves me. I have work that I'm proud of and a house that's mine. I don't have a hole in my life where you used to be because I filled that hole with people who actually care about me. But I do care about you, she insisted. Maybe you do now, but you didn't when it mattered. You didn't care when I was a kid sleeping on a couch in a storage room. You didn't care when you missed my graduation. You didn't care for 18 years. I'm sorry you almost died. I'm glad you found a donor, but I can't be your son just because you finally feel guilty about how you treated me. She was crying again. I can't change the past. No, you can't, and I can't forget it. So I think it's better if we just don't do this. You have your family. I have mine. Let's just leave it at that. Please don't shut me out, she begged. You shut me out first, I said gently. All I'm doing is accepting that and moving on. I closed the door. This time, I didn't feel guilty about it. I felt free. Dad came over that night with takeout, and we watched a game. We didn't talk about Mom or the conversation or any of it. Just sat there like we'd done 1,000 times before, comfortable in each other's company. That's what family is supposed to feel like. Jessica got home late from a school event. She kicked off her shoes, grabbed some food, and curled up next to me on the couch. Your mom came by today, I said. Oh? She didn't sound surprised. She apologized. Wants to build a relationship now that she's healthy again. What did you tell her? That I already have a family. I don't need her trying to be something she never was. Jessica squeezed my hand. Good. A few weeks later, I got an invitation in the mail. Sophie was getting married. The invitation was addressed to me, but there was a handwritten note from Mom on the back. I know I have no right to ask, but it would mean a lot to the girls if you came. We'd love to have you there. I showed it to Dad. He read it, shook his head, and handed it back. What are you going to do? He asked. Nothing. I'm not going. You sure? Yeah, I'm sure. I spent too many years trying to be part of a family that didn't want me. I'm done with that. I threw the invitation away. The wedding happened. I saw the photos on social media through mutual friends. Everyone looked happy and perfect, just like always. Mom posted about her beautiful daughter and her perfect family. No mention of her son who'd chosen not to attend. It didn't bother me. That was their family, not mine. 6 months later, I proposed to Jessica. We got married in a small ceremony with the people who actually mattered. Dad, Jessica's family, our close friends. It was perfect, simple, genuine, full of people who'd actually shown up for us over the years. Mom sent a card. It was a generic congratulations card, with a note that said she wished us well and hoped I was happy. I filed it away and forgot about it. Life moved on. I built my business, bought a bigger house, started thinking about kids. The chapter with my mother was closed, and I was okay with that. My phone rings sometimes with her number. I don't answer. She sends cards on my birthday and at Christmas. I appreciate the thought, but don't respond. We exist in separate orbits now, and that's how it needs to be. Because at the end of the day, family isn't about biology. It's about who shows up, who's there when things get hard, who chooses you every day, not just when they need something. My mother taught me that lesson, just not the way she intended. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks. Story 3. This story is titled, My Parents Left Me to Bleed Out, so they could celebrate my brother's success. Now they're the ones losing everything. So I've been holding this shit in for a long time. Figured Reddit might be the place to finally get it off my chest. I'm Derek, 30 years old, and I run a small custom motorcycle repair shop. Well, I used to anyway. More on that later. Growing up in Bristol, Tennessee fucking sucked. Not because of the town, but because of my family situation. See, I have a younger brother, Tyler. He's 3 years younger than me, and in my parents' eyes, the sun basically shines out of his ass. Our house was basically the Tyler show 24/7. Our living room looked like some kind of weird baseball museum. All his trophies displayed like they were fucking Olympic medals or something. Team photos everywhere. His old jerseys hung up in frames like he was Babe Ruth or some shit. I'm not even kidding. My parents had a special cabinet built just for his baseball stuff. Meanwhile, my stuff? I was pretty good at auto shop in high school, won a few awards for engine rebuilds. Know where those ended up? In a drawer somewhere? Or the trash? Maybe got a "that's nice" from my dad once in a blue moon. I remember spending a whole summer when I was 16 fixing up this old Kawasaki engine. Saved for months working at the gas station to buy all the parts. When I finally got it running, I was so proud I called my dad out to the garage to show him. Dude barely looked at it. Stood there for maybe 20 seconds, muttered, "That's nice, son." Then immediately asked if I'd seen Tyler's batting stats in the paper that morning. Like, are you fucking kidding me? This was basically my entire childhood. My mom would spend hours making Tyler's favorite meals before his games. Gotta make sure my all-star has his energy. But when I had a bike show, just grab something from the fridge, Derek. Dad would leave work early for every single one of Tyler's games, but was too busy at the office to come see me win second place at the regional custom bike competition. I stopped even telling them about my competitions after a while. What was the point? And holy shit, the money they spent on Tyler. Private coaches, fancy equipment, traveling teams that went all over the state. Thousands and thousands of dollars. Meanwhile, I worked 2 jobs in high school just to afford tools and parts for my bikes. Never saw a dime from my parents for my stuff. The fucked up part is, I didn't even hate Tyler for it. He wasn't a bad kid, really. Just spoiled as hell and completely clueless about how unfair everything was. Sometimes I'd catch him looking uncomfortable when they'd shower him with praise, right after ignoring something I said. But he never spoke up. Why would he? Kid was living the dream. By the time I turned 18, I knew I had to get the fuck out of there before I lost my mind. I'd been saving every penny I could, and I managed to rent this tiny garage about 8 miles from my parents' house. Close enough that they could reach me if they ever bothered to try, but far enough that I didn't have to watch the Tyler worship service every day. I built that motorcycle repair business from absolutely nothing. No help from mom and dad, no fancy loans or family connections, just me busting my ass 16 hours a day, sleeping on a nasty old cot in the back of my shop for the first year until I could afford an actual apartment. It was hard as shit, but I was good at what I did. Word got around that I could fix and modify bikes better than the dealerships for half the price. That shop became my whole life. My dog Max would hang out with me all day, sleeping in the sun by the door while I worked. I felt like I actually mattered there, you know? Like I was worth something. And then there was this chick Mia. She moved in next door about 2 years ago and opened this cute little coffee shop. First time she walked over with a "welcome to the neighborhood" coffee, I nearly dropped the wrench I was holding. She was gorgeous, smart, funny, way out of my league. But for some reason, she seemed to actually enjoy hanging around and talking about bikes and engines with me. Not gonna lie, I got these stupid butterflies in my stomach whenever she'd stop by. But I kept it friendly and professional. Just normal neighbor stuff. After all, why would someone like her be interested in someone greasy like me? My family had made it pretty clear I wasn't worth much, so I figured she probably thought the same. Everything was going pretty okay. Business was good. I had my dog, my shop, and at least Mia seemed to enjoy talking to me now and then. I thought maybe my life was finally on the right track. Then came the day 2 years ago that opened my eyes on exactly where I stood with my family. It was a Tuesday. I was working on this sweet Ducati that some rich dude from Nashville had brought in for custom work. He wanted all these fancy mods that were honestly kind of a pain in the ass, but he was paying top dollar, so I wasn't complaining. Max was in his usual spot by the door, snoring away like the lazy bastard he is. I had AC/DC blasting from my crappy old speakers. I was using my plasma cutter to modify the frame. I'd done this exact same thing like 100 times before. Nothing complicated. But this time, man, I still don't know exactly what happened. Maybe the metal had some defect. Maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention. All I know is 1 second I was focused on making a clean cut, and the next there was this horrible sound like metal tearing. A shower of sparks, and then the plasma cutter kicked back. Hard. The cutter sliced right through my right leg just above the knee. I remember seeing the metal glow red hot as it tore into my flesh, and the smell, holy fuck, the smell of my own burning flesh. I screamed so goddamn loud that Max jumped up barking like he was gonna fight whatever hurt me. Blood started pumping out immediately. Not just bleeding, but fucking gushing with each heartbeat. I fell backwards and cracked my head on the concrete floor, which didn't help matters. The pain, I can't even describe it. Like someone had stuck my leg in a furnace and was twisting it around. I've broken bones before, cut myself on engine parts, burned myself on exhaust pipes, but this was a whole different level. Fuck! Help! Somebody help me! I screamed. But my shop is pretty isolated. No way anyone was going to hear me over the music. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely reach for my phone. Blood was pooling under me fast, spreading across the shop floor like I'd knocked over a can of paint. I could feel my heart racing, and this cold, sweaty feeling spreading all over my body. With my bloody fingers smearing the screen, I finally managed to call my mom. When she picked up, I was gasping, barely able to get the words out. Mom, I choked out. I'm hurt really bad. The cutter, my leg, there's so much blood. I need help now. Her response was completely casual, like I'd called to ask what's for dinner. Derek, honey, we're kind of in the middle of something important. Can you call an ambulance? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Mom, please, I begged, my voice cracking. I'm losing too much blood. I don't think I can. I need help right now. Please. I was starting to feel lightheaded, and the room was spinning. Just hold tight, Derek. We'll be there when we can, she said. And then the line went dead. She fucking hung up on me. I was lying there on the concrete, pressing my shop rag against the wound, but it was soaked through with blood in seconds. My vision was getting all tunnel-like, black, creeping in from the edges. I tried to call 911, but my fingers were too slippery with blood to hit the numbers right. Max was freaking out, kept barking, whining and nudging at my face, like he was trying to keep me awake. Smart boy. With what felt like the last bit of strength I had, I tried calling my mom again. No answer. Then my dad. Straight to voicemail. Figures. I tried to say my last prayer, but Max wouldn't let me die peacefully. Fuck, even the afterlife comes with interruptions. Just as I was about to die for the last time, I wish I did, my phone buzzed. Tyler's name flashed on the screen. I thought they told him about what happened to me, and he's checking to see what to do. Hey, Liam! His voice was loud and slurred, like he'd been drinking. I could hear music and people laughing in the background. What's up, man? Big day today. I was confused. Who's the hell is Liam now? I thought I didn't hear right anyways. I was a bit relieved. Tyler, I gasped, struggling to get the words out. Help. Accident at the shop. Bleeding bad. Need help now. There was a pause. For a second, I thought maybe he hadn't heard me. But then he laughed. Oh, crap, sorry. Thought you were someone else calling to congratulate me. We're celebrating my draft pick, man. AA Braves just signed me. $2 million contract. In the background, I heard my mom's voice. Tyler, honey, come take a picture with the scout. I tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. My head was spinning. I could feel the blood seeping faster under me. Tyler, I whispered, but the line had already gone dead. My dad's voice boomed in the background. That's my boy, professional baseball player. Always knew you had it in you. So there I was, bleeding out on my shop floor, while my entire family was just 8 miles away partying because Tyler got a baseball contract. They couldn't be bothered to drive 10 minutes to help me. Tyler, please, I whispered, but he had already hung up. My vision was fading fast now. The pain was starting to feel distant, replaced by this weird floating numbness. Not a good sign. I knew enough about injuries to know I was going into shock. Probably dying, this time for real. Max's barking suddenly changed, becoming more frantic. Through my fading consciousness, I heard the shop door slam open. Derek, I brought you some coffee and... Oh my God! Derek! Mia's voice. Then her face appeared above me, total horror in her eyes. I didn't like her seeing me like this. I always portrayed myself as a tough, strong dude in front of her. Derek, stay with me! Don't close your eyes! She was already on her phone, screaming at 911. I need an ambulance now! Severe laceration, arterial bleeding, patient losing consciousness. She ripped off her belt and wrapped it around my thigh, yanking it tight as a tourniquet. The pain jolted me back to consciousness for a moment. Mia, I mumbled. Don't talk. Save your strength. Her hands were covered in my blood, but she didn't hesitate for a second. The ambulance is coming. Just stay with me, Derek. Please stay with me. I wanted to tell her I didn't need an ambulance. I was already saved, right there in her arms. If this was how I went out, at least I had the best view. The last thing I remember before passing out was her eyes, filled with tears, and her voice repeating my name over and over. I later found out that Max had been barking nonstop for so long that Mia came to check what was wrong. If she hadn't shown up when she did, I wouldn't be typing this right now. The doctor told me I was about 5 minutes away from bleeding out completely. I woke up to the steady beep of hospital monitors and that weird antiseptic smell hospitals always have. My leg felt like it was on fire, but at least I was alive. Mia was asleep in the chair next to my bed, her clothes still stained with my blood. Looking at her there, even with her hair all messed up and dark circles under her eyes, I realized how lucky I was that she found me. The doctor came in a few hours later, looking all serious with his clipboard and everything. You're lucky to be alive. If your neighbor hadn't found you when she did, you would have bled out in another 5 minutes. He cleared his throat and got that look doctors get when they're about to drop some bad news. The bad news is, the damage to your leg was extensive. The plasma cutter severed your femoral artery and caused significant nerve and muscle damage. We've managed to save the leg, but he paused, and I could tell he was trying to find a nice way to say whatever was coming next. You'll need multiple surgeries, and there's a high probability you won't regain full function. This kind of injury, it's likely you won't be able to stand for long periods again, which means I can't work on bikes anymore. I finished for him. The words felt like rocks in my mouth. My entire life, my business, my identity, everything I'd built for myself was gone in a single moment of carelessness. I tried to wrap my head around it all. What the hell was I supposed to do now? Mia woke up then and immediately came to my side, taking my hand. I was so scared, she whispered. There was so much blood, and you were so pale. I thought I was going to lose you. I tried to smile for her sake. Thanks for saving my life. She squeezed my hand. Have your parents been here? I tried calling the number in your emergency contacts. Huh, my parents. I just shook my head. I was too tired to explain the whole fucked up situation. Then, right on cue, my phone rang. It was my dad. For a split second, I thought maybe they actually gave a shit and were calling to check on me. Dad? I answered, hating myself for still hoping. His voice came through, not concerned, just all businesslike. Derek, your mother and I need to borrow $25,000 for Tyler's equipment and relocation expenses for his new team. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. No, how are you? No, we heard you were hurt. Just straight to asking for money for Tyler. Again. I'm in the hospital, I said slowly, my voice shaking because I was trying not to completely lose my shit. I almost died yesterday. Where were you when I called begging for help? There was an awkward pause before my dad responded dismissively. Don't be so dramatic, Derek. It was just a cut. Just a cut? I couldn't hold back anymore. I nearly bled to death. The doctor said another 5 minutes and I would have died. And you were all too busy celebrating Tyler's baseball contract to care. Mia was staring at me shouting, her eyes wide. Look, my dad said, sounding annoyed like I was wasting his time. We're sorry you got hurt, but Tyler's signing is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. This is important. And my life isn't? I hated how pathetic I sounded. The silence that followed told me everything I needed to know. We need that money by next week, he finally said. I hung up without another word. Then I opened my banking app and just stared at it. For 5 years, I'd been sending my parents $1,000 a month to help out with expenses. I always figured it was the right thing to do, you know? They were struggling a bit with the mortgage, or so they said. Now I knew where that money was really going. Straight into Tyler's baseball career. With a few taps, I canceled the automatic transfer. Done. 5 years of giving them my hard-earned money, and they couldn't even be bothered to help me when I was dying. Mia sat back down, looking shocked. Derek, I couldn't help overhearing, did your parents really not come when you called them? Before I found you? I told her everything. About growing up as the forgotten son. About calling them yesterday and being ignored while they celebrated Tyler. About years of sending them money that they just funneled to my golden boy brother. By the time I finished, she looked like she wanted to punch something. That's not family, she said, her voice shaking. That's not how parents are supposed to act. That's just fucked up. She stayed with me through that whole first week in the hospital. Every day bringing me decent food because hospital food is trash, helping me figure out the TV remote, just talking to me about normal stuff to keep my mind off things. Nobody had ever done anything like that for me before. But then I got a text from Tyler. Hey bro, heard you got hurt. That sucks. Also, did you tell mom and dad you won't help with my expenses? Not cool, man. Family helps family. I didn't even bother responding. The next day, my mom called and left a voicemail. Derek, honey, I know you're upset, but this is Tyler's big break. We really need that money. Call us back. Mia was there when I played the voicemail. She took my phone and deleted it. You don't need that negativity right now, she said. Then she surprised me by taking my hand. You know what? I'm going to be your family now. Me and Max. Something about the way she said it made my chest feel tight in a completely different way than the pain meds. When she looked at me, it wasn't with pity. It was something else. Something I wasn't used to seeing directed at me. The doctors told me I'd need at least 2 more surgeries and months of physical therapy. The medical bills were already piling up, and my crappy insurance was only covering about half. I was looking at debt that would take years to pay off. Plus, I couldn't work. My shop was sitting empty, and I still had rent to pay on it. I'm screwed, I told Mia one night, when the reality of it all hit me. I can't work. I can't pay my bills. I can't keep my shop. Everything I built is just gone. She squeezed my hand. We'll figure it out. I'm not going anywhere. That night, after she left, I lay in the hospital bed, thinking about how my parents couldn't be bothered to drive 8 miles to save my life. But Mia, who I'd known for less than 2 years, was by my side every day. Some family you're born with, some family you find. And sometimes the family you find is worth a hell of a lot more than the one you were born with. When the nurse came in to check my vitals, she noticed I was still awake. You should get some rest, she said. Your girlfriend can come back tomorrow. I didn't correct her about Mia being my girlfriend. For the first time since the accident, I fell asleep with something almost like hope. The next few months were a complete shit show. Recovery from an injury like mine isn't just painful, it's humiliating. I went from being a guy who could rebuild an entire motorcycle engine to someone who needed help getting to the bathroom. 3 surgeries in 2 months. The first one was to repair more of the damage to my leg. Second was to deal with some infection that popped up. Third was to try to fix some of the nerve damage. Each time they wheeled me into the OR, I wondered if this would be the one that finally fixed me. Each time I woke up, the doctors had that same careful look on their faces. The doctor had been right. I'd never stand long enough to work on bikes again. At least not the way I used to. 8, 10 hours on my feet, working under bikes, crouching, lifting heavy parts. That was never happening again. My shop sat empty. I still had to pay rent on it, which was draining what little savings I had. The medical bills were insane. Even with insurance, I was looking at over $80,000. The health insurance I had covered maybe half the surgeries, and that was after fighting with them on the phone for hours. Mia was the only thing keeping me from completely losing my shit. She'd drive me to appointments, help with my exercises, and stay late into the evening just talking about normal stuff to distract me. Her coffee shop was doing okay, so she started bringing me dinner when she figured out, correctly, that I was skipping meals to save money. One evening, as she was helping me back into my apartment after therapy, my leg was in a brace and I was still on crutches, I finally got the balls to ask why she was doing all this. I mean, I couldn't decide if she had a crush on me, or was that just a pity project over a lonely loser? Because I care about you, dummy, she said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Then she leaned in and kissed me. It wasn't some perfect movie moment. I was gross and sweaty from PT, probably smelled like hospital, and was balancing awkwardly on my crutches. But for the first time since the accident, I felt like maybe my life wasn't completely over. I've had a crush on you since the day I moved in next door, she admitted, blushing a little. I kept bringing you coffee hoping you'd ask me out. I thought you were just being nice, I said, feeling like the biggest idiot on the planet. She laughed. I don't bring coffee to all the neighbors, Derek. Makes sense. 2 weeks later, she moved into my apartment. It happened naturally. She was spending most nights there anyway, helping me out. She said it was just more practical this way, but I could tell there was more to it. It should have been weird going from neighbors to roommates to whatever we were now, but it wasn't. It felt right. During all this, did my family ever call to check how I was doing? Take a wild guess. The only contact I got was my mom texting to ask if I'd reconsidered helping with Tyler's expenses. I blocked her number after that. I was starting to panic about money. My savings were almost gone. Bills were piling up and I couldn't work. I had no idea what I was going to do. My whole identity was wrapped up in being a motorcycle mechanic. What the hell else was I qualified to do? What am I going to do, Mia? I asked one night, staring at the ceiling. I can't go back to what I was doing before. I'm fucking useless now. She propped herself up on her elbow and looked down at me. You're not useless. You're just different now. You still know more about motorcycles than anyone in this town. I snorted. Fat lot of good that does me if I can't work on them. So don't work on them, she said. Teach other people how to work on them. I looked at her like she was crazy. Who the hell would want to learn from me? Are you kidding? That kid Jamie is always hanging around your shop asking questions. Start with him. Jamie was this 19-year-old who had been lurking around my shop for months before the accident, asking about bikes. Annoying as hell, but earnest. The next day, I called him up. Want to learn how to rebuild a carburetor? I asked. He showed up at my apartment an hour later, looking like I'd just offered him $1 million. I taught him from my kitchen table, using diagrams and small engine parts I could work on while sitting down. It wasn't fancy, but the kid was eating it up. I charged him $20 per session, which wasn't much, but it was something. Jamie told his friends. Soon I had 3 students, then 5. I moved the lessons to my garage, where I could at least have some proper tools around. It still wasn't much money, but it was enough to make the minimum payments on my medical bills and keep the lights on. Mia watched all this with this smug, "I told you so" look on her face. "You're a good teacher," she said one night. "You ever think about making it official? Like a real trade school kind of thing?" I laughed at it, but kept the idea in mind. My leg wasn't getting much better, though. The doctors said I'd probably always have pain, a limp, and always need to limit how long I stood. Some days were better than others, but I was starting to accept that this was my new normal. 4 months after the accident, I was finally well enough to go back to my shop. Not to work like before, that was never happening again, but to try this new teaching thing for real. I'd set up a small classroom area with some folding chairs and a whiteboard. The actual work area was still fully equipped, but now it was where my students would learn hands-on. My little school had 6 regular students by then, mostly guys in their late teens or early 20s who wanted to learn motorcycle repair, but couldn't afford real trade school. I charged enough to keep the lights on, but not so much that these kids couldn't afford it. It wasn't making me rich, but between that and Mia's help, I was staying afloat. Then, out of nowhere, while I was sitting at my desk going over some carburetor diagrams for the next day's lesson, when I heard the shop door open. Mia was at the counter. She'd started helping out at the shop when she wasn't running her coffee place. "Derek, your parents are here," she called back to me, her voice tight. My stomach dropped to my feet. I hadn't seen them since before the accident. They walked in looking exactly the same as always. Neither of them even glanced at my leg brace or the cane I was now using to get around. "Derek," my dad said, getting straight to business as usual. "We need to talk to you about something important." I waited, not offering them a seat or anything. Why should I? "Tyler's having some problems with the team," Mom jumped in, adjusting her designer purse on her shoulder. "The contract had some fine print we didn't anticipate, and he needs to buy out part of his agreement. It's a legal thing." Dad nodded gravely. "It's going to cost around $450,000 to fix this situation. We've looked at all our options, and the only solution is for you to sell this place." I just stared at them, not sure if I should laugh or scream. "You want me to sell my business to bail Tyler out of a contract problem? This shop is just sitting here while you're recovering," Mom said, gesturing around like my entire livelihood was just some old junk I was hoarding. "If you sell it now, we can use the money to help Tyler, and there would be enough left for you to start something new once you're better." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After everything, after them leaving me to die, they had the nerve to ask me to sell my business for Tyler? "Let me get this straight," I said slowly, trying to keep my voice level. "You want me to sell the business that I built from nothing? The business that I can still run even with my injury? So Tyler can get out of a contract that he signed without reading?" Dad frowned. "Don't be selfish, Derek. This is your brother's future we're talking about. And stop acting like this is a real business. What, teaching kids how to screw in bolts? That's not a business." I almost fell out of my chair. Selfish? Me? Before I could say anything, Mia stepped forward from the counter, her eyes blazing. "Selfish? Are you serious right now?" My parents looked at her like they'd just noticed she existed. "Derek almost died," she said, her voice sharp and shaking with anger. "He called you, begging for help, bleeding out on the floor, and you ignored him. You were too busy celebrating Tyler to even care. He's been through 3 surgeries, might never fully recover, and neither of you visited him. Not once. And now, you have the audacity to show up here and ask him to give up everything he's built just to bail Tyler out of another mess?" The room went dead silent, but Mia's words hung in the air like a slap. Mom looked offended. "Who are you? This is a family matter. You stay out of it." "No," I cut her off. "Mia is family. She's more family than either of you have ever been to me." I pointed to the door. "Get out, and don't come back." Dad's face turned red. "You ungrateful! Get out!" I shouted, standing up despite the pain in my leg. They left, Dad slamming the door behind them hard enough to rattle the windows. Mia came to my side as I sank back into my chair, my leg throbbing like a bitch. "I'm sorry," she said, taking my hand. "I shouldn't have interfered." I squeezed her hand. Number U said exactly what needed to be said. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I felt bad about what happened. I didn't. But because I was still in shock that they would have the balls to ask me to sell my shop. After everything they'd done. After everything they hadn't done when I needed them. The next morning, I made a decision. I went to the bank and removed my parents from my emergency contact list. I called my lawyer. Okay, not my lawyer, a friend who happens to be a lawyer, and had him draw up a will, leaving everything to Mia. I even called the hospital and made sure they knew my parents were not to be given any information about me if anything happened again. I was cutting every single tie. A week later, Mia and I were cleaning up the shop after the day's lesson when she suddenly said, "I think we should make this official." "Make what official?" I asked. She gestured around. "This, the school. Let's actually register it as a trade school. Get some certification. Do it right." I looked at her like she was crazy. That would cost a fortune. Paperwork, licenses, equipment upgrades. "So?" She grinned. "My coffee shop is doing great. I've got savings. We could be partners." "Business partners?" I asked. She came over and kissed me on the cheek. That too. 2 weeks later, we submitted the paperwork to create Summers Motorcycle Technical Institute. Fancy name for what was basically just me teaching kids in my old shop, but Mia insisted we make it sound professional. You know what's funny? My entire life I'd tried to get my parents to notice me, to be proud of me. And now that I was finally building something good, something that might actually work, I didn't give a crap if they knew or not. Their opinion didn't matter anymore. That night, as Mia and I were celebrating with takeout, my phone buzzed with a text. It was from Tyler, the first I'd heard from him since that bullshit family helps family text. "Mom and Dad are freaking out. They might lose the house because of my contract thing. Can you help?" I stared at the phone for a long time, thinking about all the years I'd put up with their crap, and the way they trying to spin everything. Still, they have the audacity to call me and ask for help, and guilt trip me. I typed, "And you're my brother, but none of you acted like family when I was bleeding out on the floor. I've got a real family now. Good luck with your baseball career." Then I blocked his number too. Mia wrapped her arms around me from behind. "You okay?" I nodded. "Yeah. Actually, I think I am." I felt completely at peace with my decision. They'd made their choice a long time ago. Now I was making mine. Recently, I found out through an old high school friend that my parents ended up losing the house after all. They couldn't make the mortgage payments after spending everything they had on Tyler's contract buyout. Apparently, they moved into a small apartment on the outskirts of town. Dad had to come out of retirement and take a job at the local hardware store. Mom started working part-time at a department store. Karma's a bitch, I guess. Whenever I catch myself feeling bad for them, I remember the sight of my own blood pooling around me while they popped champagne for Tyler, and that feeling disappears pretty damn quick. As for Tyler, his baseball career crashed and burned spectacularly. After all that money spent to fix his contract issues, he showed up to training out of shape and with a major attitude problem. The team gave him multiple warnings before cutting him loose after just one season. Last I heard, he's working as an assistant coach at some small-town high school, still talking about his almost pro career. The golden child finally had to face reality. He wasn't special, just spoiled. Sometimes I wonder if he ever realized how much our parents sacrificed for him and how little they gave a shit about me. And yeah, it's been 3 years now since everything went down. Mia and I got married last spring in a small ceremony with just our friends and her family. Our motorcycle school now has its official certification and a waiting list 2 months long. We're even thinking about expanding to a second location. My leg still gives me trouble, and I'll always walk with a limp, but I've learned to work around it. Some nights I still wake up in a cold sweat, phantom pain shooting through my leg, memories of that day still fresh. But Mia's always there, holding me until I fall back asleep. My old family might have left me to die, but my new one gives me a reason to live, and that's more than enough for me. So what would you have done in my shoes? Cut them off like I did? Try to forgive? I'm curious what other people think. Sometimes I wonder if I made the right call, but then I look at what I've built from the ashes of that day, and I think maybe, just maybe, it was the only call I could have made. Edit. Thanks for all the comments and support. For those asking, yes, Max is still doing great. He's getting old and lazy, but still the best shop dog around. Story 4. This story is titled, "My parents skipped my graduation to help my golden child sister move. So I cut them off. Now they're desperate for my help." Hey everyone. Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. I guess I should start from the beginning. You guys ever feel like an NPC in your own life? Like you're just kinda there while everyone else is the main character? I'm Ryan, 22 male, and that's pretty much how it's always been in my family. It's weird typing this out, but it feels good to finally tell someone who might actually listen. My younger sister Jenna, 20 female, has always been the golden child. And I don't mean like she occasionally got special treatment. I mean she was always the priority. Every Single time. It's like my parents decided when we were little that she was the one worth investing in, and I was just there. When I was 10, I won this math competition. It was district-wide and pretty tough. I was super excited to tell my parents because math was my thing, and I finally had something to be proud of. I remember running home with my medal, only to find them fussing over Jenna's dance recital outfit. I stood there for like 5 minutes before they even noticed me. When I showed them the medal, my dad just said, "That's nice," and went right back to helping Jenna. I remember sitting in my room that night staring at the medal and wondering why I even bothered. That's just one example. There's so many more. When I was 14, I deliberately didn't tell them I had a school presentation, just to see if they'd ask. They didn't. Meanwhile, Jenna came home the same week talking about some dumb history poster project, and my mom literally stayed up until 2 a.m. helping her glue pictures to it. I used to vent to my girlfriend, I'll call her Megan, about this stuff, but she never really got it. "Come on, it's not that bad," she'd say. "Your parents just love Jenna a lot. She's the youngest. Of course they dote on her." Like I was overreacting. Like I wasn't watching my own family pretend I didn't exist. I remember when I turned 16, my dad promised to teach me to drive. He talked about it for months, how it was this father-son tradition and stuff. But then Jenna needed help with some science project, and suddenly Dad had no time for driving lessons. My Uncle Rick ended up teaching me instead. My dad didn't even seem to care. Take also my high school graduation. One of those proud parent moments, mine showed up 20 minutes late. I already had my diploma in hand, standing on the stage for a group photo. I saw them sneaking in the back like it was a casual lunch date they were late for. No photos, no cheers, just my dad whispering, "Jenna's game ran long." Cool. Guess volleyball trumps a once-in-a-lifetime event? My college acceptance letter came the same day Jenna got asked to prom by some football dude. Guess which one got celebrated with a special dinner? I tried talking to them about it once when I was 19. Big mistake. My mom got all defensive and said I was being selfish and that family supports each other. Dad just sat there nodding along like a damn bobblehead. The message was crystal clear. Jenna's needs are more important than Ryan's needs. Always. It messes with your head, you know? Growing up knowing you're the afterthought in your own family, you start to expect disappointment. You train yourself not to get your hopes up. And honestly, when someone actually does show up for you, it feels so weird that you don't even know how to react. Uncle Rick was pretty much the only one who ever saw what was happening. He's my dad's older brother, and he'd pull me aside at family gatherings sometimes and say stuff like, "I see what's happening here, kid, and it's not right." He was the only one who ever validated what I was feeling. Everyone else acted like I was crazy or too sensitive. So anyway, fast forward to college. I busted my ass for 4 years in computer science. Worked part-time, maintained a 3.9 GPA, even made some connections through networking events. I was pretty proud of myself, especially since I'd done it mostly on my own. For some stupid reason, I thought my college graduation would be different. That maybe this big milestone would be the one where they'd actually put me first for once. Like, this was it, their chance to show me they cared. So about 2 weeks before my graduation, I reminded my parents about the ceremony. I was like, "Hey, so graduation's on the 15th at 10 a.m. if you guys still plan on coming." My mom barely looked up from her phone and said, "We wouldn't miss it, honey." The day before graduation, I sent a message to our family group chat. "Ceremony starts at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Parking gets crazy, so maybe try to arrive by 9:30. No response. But that wasn't unusual with them, so I didn't think much of it. Graduation morning comes around, and I'm getting dressed in my cap and gown. I was nervous, but kinda excited too. Megan was supposed to meet me at my apartment at 8:30 so we could head over together. I checked my phone, half expecting some weak excuse. Megan wasn't technically like my parents, but there had been moments. Times when I'd felt like she was a little too quick to take their side, a little too eager to please my mom. She'd always been the type to smooth things over, to say, "It's not a big deal, babe," whenever I got frustrated with them. I pushed the thought down. No way she'd let me down today. By 9 o'clock, she still hadn't shown up. I called her, and there was all this background noise, people talking and laughing. "Hey, where are you? We need to go." She hesitates. "Oh, something came up. I'm at Jenna's new place." At Jenna's new place. On my graduation morning. I sit down on my bed, rubbing my temple, already knowing where this is going. "You're kidding, right? Your mom asked me to help her move. I thought you knew." I froze. Something about the way she said it. It wasn't surprise or guilt. It was just annoyance. Like I was being unreasonable for even questioning it. Like she wasn't surprised to be caught, just irritated that I had a problem with it. And that's when it clicked. She had known. Maybe not consciously, maybe not in a way she would admit, but she had always been fine with this dynamic. Always fine with Jenna coming first. Always fine with my parents acting like I was an afterthought. And for the first time, I realized even my girlfriend wasn't really on my side at all. And the way she thought I knew. Yeah, sure. Just like she thought ditching my college graduation for a moving party was a completely normal thing to do. I couldn't even get mad yet. I was still processing how my own girlfriend had been roped into prioritizing my sister over me. Again. So none of you are coming to my graduation? I asked. I was weirdly calm. Your parents said they might try to make it for the end, she said, like that somehow made it better. Try? Like my graduation was a dentist appointment they were squeezing in. Nah, I said, voice deadpan. Tell them not to bother. They wouldn't want to miss Jenna's housewarming party. She started saying something, but I hung up and just sat on my bed, still in my cap and gown, feeling like complete shit. 4 years of busting my ass, and the people who were supposed to care about me couldn't even show up. Not even my girlfriend. I was about to take off my gown and skip the whole thing when my phone rang. It was Uncle Rick, my dad's older brother. Hey, kiddo, I'm outside your building. Ready to go celebrate that diploma? Uncle Rick had always been the one family member who actually gave a damn about me. He'd made a ton of money from some tech startup he sold years ago, and unlike my parents, he actually seemed to care about what I was doing with my life. Yeah, I said, grabbing my keys. I'm ready. So I ended up going to my graduation after all, but only because of Uncle Rick. When we were driving over, he took one look at my face and knew something was up. Let me guess, he said. They're not coming. I shook my head. They're helping Jenna move into her new apartment, having a party. Megan's there too. He cursed. Those selfish assholes. Then he caught himself. Sorry, Ryan. You deserve better than that. Walking onto that stage, I scanned the crowd like an idiot, still holding on to some dumb hope that maybe, just maybe, they'd shown up last minute. Nothing. Just rows and rows of people hugging their kids, dads clapping their sons on the back, moms crying happy tears. Meanwhile, I'm standing there with my diploma in hand, the only person cheering for me being my uncle, who technically isn't even obligated to give a crap. That's when it really sank in. They didn't just forget me, they made a choice. And the choice was Jenna. After the ceremony, Uncle Rick took me to this fancy steakhouse he'd reserved, like the kind of place where they don't even put prices on the menu. When I walked in wearing my graduation gown, the staff actually applauded, which was embarrassing but kinda nice too. Uncle Rick went all out and got the fanciest thing on the menu. The waiter didn't even ask for my ID. Guess the cap and gown were proof enough that I was officially an adult. I'm proud of you, kid, Uncle Rick said, lifting his glass. Computer science isn't easy and you crushed it. You're going places, whether they see it or not. It's wild how much those words meant. Out of everything that happened that day, hearing my uncle say he was proud hit the hardest. For once, someone actually saw what I'd accomplished. My uncle has always been straight with me. When I was younger, he'd pull me aside at family gatherings and say stuff like, I see what's happening here, and it's not right. He never sugarcoated things or made excuses for my parents like everyone else did. Halfway through lunch, my phone starts buzzing like crazy. At first, I think maybe it's an apology, that they realized how badly they screwed up. But all I found is, Megan, where are you? Are you coming to Jenna's party after? Mom, sorry we couldn't make it, sweetie, but Jenna's apartment is so nice. You'll love it. Dad, let's do dinner next weekend to celebrate you. Dinner and for the next weekend. Because, wouldn't want to interrupt Jenna's big day with something as minor as my college graduation. I put my phone face down on the table. Uncle Rick sees my expression. Let me guess, he says, cutting into his steak. They're at a party? I nodded. He chews for a second, then shakes his head. Fuh. Eat your steak. After we finished eating, Uncle Rick handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for $50,000 and a business card for some guy named Mark at a tech company in Seattle. Consider it a graduation gift, he said. Mark's looking for fresh talent. He'll give you an interview if you want it. I stared at the check. That was more money than I'd ever seen in my life. Uncle, I can't. You can, and you will, he said firmly. Look, I never had kids of my own. Let me do this for you. Take the money, take the opportunity, and get the hell away from people who don't appreciate you. I hugged him, trying not to get emotional in the middle of a fancy restaurant. Thank you. On the way back to my apartment, I made my decision. I was never going to my family's house again. I took a photo of me and Uncle Rick at the restaurant and posted it on Instagram with the caption, "Huge thanks to the only person who showed up for my graduation. At least now I know who actually cares about me." Then I turned off my phone. I didn't want to deal with any of their responses or excuses. When we got back to my place, Uncle Rick and I talked more about the job in Seattle. It sounded perfect. Junior developer position at a growing company, good salary, chance to move across the country. What about my lease? My stuff? I asked. Uncle Rick waved his hand. Details. We'll figure it out. Question is, do you want a fresh start or not? I thought about how Megan had betrayed me, how my parents had chosen Jenna over me yet again, on what should have been one of the biggest days of my life, how nothing would ever change if I stayed. Yeah, I said. I want a fresh start. We called Mark right then and there. Uncle Rick put him on speaker and introduced me. We talked for about 20 minutes about my projects, my experience, what I was looking for in a job. At the end of the call, Mark said, "How soon can you get out here for an in-person interview?" I looked at my uncle, who gave me a thumbs up. "How about next week?" I said. "Perfect. Rick, send me his resume and I'll have HR set everything up." After we hung up, I felt this weird mix of excitement and nervousness. I was really doing this. Starting over completely. "You're doing the right thing," Uncle Rick said, like he could read my mind. "Sometimes you have to look out for yourself because no one else will." The interview with Mark went way better than I expected. I flew out to Seattle. Uncle Rick paid for the ticket, wouldn't let me argue about it, and the company put me up in this nice hotel downtown. The office was super cool, one of those modern tech spaces with free snacks and standing desks and all that stuff. Mark and I clicked right away. We ended up talking for almost 2 hours, way longer than scheduled. At the end, he was like, "So, when can you start?" Just like that. Junior developer position, six-figure salary, which blew my mind, plus relocation assistance. I accepted on the spot. The crazy part? I didn't tell anyone about it. Not my parents, not Jenna, and definitely not Megan. I just quietly started packing up my apartment, donated most of my furniture to Goodwill, and loaded what was left into my car. I kept my phone off most of that week. The day before I left, I finally turned it back on to tie up loose ends. Holy shit. 47 missed calls, 93 text messages, voicemails from my parents demanding to know where I was, why I wasn't answering, how I could be so childish about missing one graduation ceremony. Megan's messages were the worst. She went from, "Please talk to me. I know I messed up. Your parents said it would just be an hour, but then everyone started drinking and I couldn't leave," to, "Seriously, Ryan? You're ghosting me over this?" I said I was sorry. "I'm coming over tomorrow. We need to talk about this in person." "Your neighbor said you're moving? Where are you going? Call me." I didn't respond to any of it. Instead, I sent a quick email to my landlord explaining I was breaking my lease and that they could keep the security deposit. Then, I got in my car at 5 a.m. and started the drive to Seattle. It took me 3 days, staying in cheap motels along the way. The whole drive, I kept waiting to feel guilty or sad or something. But honestly, I felt free. Like I was finally escaping this life where I was always second best, always an afterthought. The first month in Seattle was a blur. The company set me up with a temporary apartment while I looked for a place. I found this small but nice apartment downtown, walking distance to work. I threw myself into the job, working long hours, trying to learn everything I could. My boss seemed impressed with how quickly I picked things up. I still talked to Uncle Rick regularly, but as far as everyone else knew, I'd vanished. I changed my number, deleted most of my social media, and created new accounts under slightly different variations of my name. I didn't want to be found. Megan kept trying to reach me through every platform possible. Emails, LinkedIn messages, even reaching out to my college friends. I blocked her on everything. My parents tried calling daily for the first few weeks. I listened to some of their voicemails out of curiosity. "This behavior is unacceptable, Ryan," my mom said in one. "We've always supported you, and this is how you repay us? By disappearing and ignoring us? You're breaking your father's heart. And my favorite, your sister misses you. She doesn't understand why you're punishing her for something that wasn't her fault. Please call us back." I deleted them all. The funny thing is, I didn't feel bad about any of it. Not even a little. For the first time in my life, I wasn't constantly waiting for approval or validation that never came. I was just living, focusing on my career, making new friends at work. I even started going to this rock climbing gym nearby. 6 months went by. No contact. I got promoted. Started making actual friends. People who knew nothing about my past or my family drama. Just normal relationships, not tainted by all that baggage. Life was good. Really good. But then came the email from my dad. "We need to talk. It's about your inheritance." I actually laughed out loud when I read it. Inheritance? What inheritance? My parents were comfortable, but they weren't rich by any means. Dad had his accounting firm and mom was a part-time real estate agent. They had a nice house in the suburbs and took a vacation once a year. That was it. Even if they had been wealthy, did they seriously think money would make me come crawling back after everything? I replied with 2 words. Not interested. That opened the floodgates. My phone started blowing up again, emails pouring in. My mom texting about how I was throwing away my future and how they'd always planned to help me financially. Like that was supposed to matter to me now? My dad sent this long-ass email about family responsibility and how I was being childish and ungrateful. It was all so fake. They'd had months to apologize, to acknowledge how they'd hurt me. But instead, they were trying to dangle money in front of me like I was some kind of pet who would perform tricks for treats. After a week of this, I finally answered one of Dad's calls. I was sitting at my desk at work on my lunch break when his number popped up for like the 20th time. What? I said flatly. Ryan, thank God. He sounded relieved. We've been so worried. Where are you? Are you okay? I'm fine. What do you want? He cleared his throat. Son, we need to discuss your future. Your mother and I have been thinking about our will, and let me stop you right there. I cut in. I don't want your money. I don't need your money. I'm doing fine on my own. But Ryan, his voice turned stern like he was talking to a child. You're not thinking clearly. This inheritance could set you up for life. Don't throw away your future just because you're angry about one missed event. I couldn't help it. I started laughing. What's so funny? He demanded. You still don't get it, do you? It was never about one missed event. It's about a lifetime of being treated like I don't matter. And now you think you can buy your way back into my life? With money I don't even need? What do you mean you don't need it? He sounded confused. I mean, I have a great job. I make more than enough money. I'm doing well, no thanks to you or Mom. There was silence on the other end. Then, so that's it? You're just cutting us out of your life forever? You cut yourselves out, I said quietly. I'm just making it official. I hung up. Then I blocked their numbers. All of them. Even Megan, though she'd mostly given up by then. That night, I called Uncle Rick and told him what happened. They tried to threaten me with my inheritance, I said, still laughing about the whole thing. He chuckled. Classic move. Your father tried that on me once too, you know. When I told him his business model was outdated? Wait, seriously? Oh yeah. Your grandparents weren't rich, but they had this summer cabin that everyone wanted. Your dad held it over all our heads like some prize to be won. That's why I made my own money, so I'd never have to dance to someone else's tune. I never thought about it like that before. How money was just another way my parents tried to control people. Another form of manipulation. You know what the best revenge is, right? Uncle Rick said. What's that? Success. Living well. Building a life so good they can't help but see what they're missing out on. I liked the sound of that. After I got off the phone, I checked LinkedIn out of curiosity. My dad had viewed my profile multiple times. I could tell he was keeping tabs on me, seeing my job updates, probably trying to figure out where I was living. The thought of him obsessing over my whereabouts while I was happily moving on with my life felt pretty damn good, actually. I updated my LinkedIn that night, added my promotion, some project details, a few professional photos of me at a tech conference. Let him see exactly what he was missing out on. My roommate Dave could tell something was up. You good? He asked when he saw me smirking at my laptop. Yeah, I said. Just dealing with some family drama. The golden child sister and the shitty parents? He asked. I'd told him bits and pieces over beers one night. Yep, they're trying to bribe me back into their lives with some mysterious inheritance. Dave laughed. Dude, that's pathetic. I know, right? The funny part is, I make more money now than they ever will. And before I knew it, 2 years had passed. I went from junior developer to team lead in record time. My boss kept giving me more responsibility because I worked my ass off. I led this huge product launch that actually got some attention in the tech world. I got featured in a couple articles about rising stars in software development. Nothing major, but my face and name were out there. I bought a nice condo overlooking Puget Sound with floor-to-ceiling windows and an actual view. Started making real money, the kind where you don't have to check your bank account before going out to dinner. Dating scene in Seattle was pretty good too. Nothing super serious, but I was meeting interesting people and enjoying myself. Made friends who were into hiking and camping, so we'd take weekend trips to explore Washington State. For the first time ever, I had a life that felt completely mine, not defined by being the forgotten child or anything related to my family. Uncle Rick visited often. He'd crash at my place and we'd hit up the nice restaurants in town. He told me several times how proud he was of what I was building for myself. He was more of a father figure to me than my actual dad ever was. I rarely thought about my family anymore. Occasionally, I'd see something that reminded me of them, but it didn't really hurt anymore. It was more like remembering a bad TV show I'd watched years ago rather than something that had actually happened to me. Then the economy took a nosedive. Tech companies were mostly fine, but a lot of other businesses started struggling. I only knew about my dad's situation because Uncle Rick mentioned it during one of our calls. Your dad's accounting firm isn't doing so hot, he said, sipping his coffee at my kitchen counter. Lost a bunch of clients to bigger firms that could offer lower rates, might have to downsize. I just shrugged. Not my problem. I didn't feel happy about it, but I didn't feel bad either. Just nothing. A month later, I got a LinkedIn message from my dad. Super formal and professional. Ryan, I hope this message finds you well. I've been following your career with interest. Very impressive work with the Streamline AI project. I was wondering if we could connect sometime to discuss potential collaboration opportunities. Hope to hear from you soon. I showed it to my coworker Mike over lunch. He nearly spit out his drink. Dude, is he serious? Potential collaboration opportunities? That's code for I need money, right? I nodded, still staring at the message. Pretty much. What are you gonna do? I closed my laptop. Nothing. But the messages didn't stop there. Next came an email from my mom talking about how proud they were of my success, how they'd always known I would do great things. She mentioned almost casually that they were going through a difficult time financially and that they missed their son. Then Jenna reached out on Instagram. Hey stranger, long time no talk. Look, I know things are weird with us, but mom and dad are really struggling right now. Dad's business is failing, and they might lose the house. I know you're doing really well. Congrats on that, BTW. And I was wondering if maybe you could help them out. They're too proud to ask directly. I didn't respond to any of them. Didn't even mark the messages as read. Mike was fascinated by the whole situation. So your parents ignored you your whole life, chose your sister over you every time, including ditching your college graduation, and now they want you to bail them out? That's some next-level entitlement. Welcome to my family, I said, rolling my eyes. You're not considering it, are you? He asked. Hell no. They made their bed. The truth is, part of me enjoyed seeing the tables turn. They'd made me feel powerless and unimportant my whole life. Now I had what they wanted, and they had to come to me. Was that petty? Maybe, but it felt like karma. Then, one Saturday morning, my doorman called up. Mr. Walker, there's a couple here to see you. They say they're your parents. My heart started pounding. I'm not expecting anyone. They're quite insistent, sir. The woman is getting upset. I sighed. Send them up. I knew this day would come eventually. Might as well get it over with. When I opened it, I barely recognized my parents standing there. Dad looked like he'd aged 10 years. Gray hair, deep wrinkles, the whole deal. Mom was skinny in a not healthy way, wearing clothes that used to fit her, but now just hung off her frame. They both had this look I'd never seen before, like cornered animals. Ryan, Mom whispered, reaching for a hug. I stepped back, keeping the door half closed like a shield. How'd you find my address? I asked. Dad cleared his throat. Rick told us. Said it was time we talked. That pissed me off. Uncle Rick had always been the one person who respected my boundaries. I made a mental note to call him later and ask what the hell. Can we come in? Mom tried to peek around me. Looks like a beautiful place. I almost said no, but figured might as well get this over with. I stepped aside and let them in, watching their faces as they saw my place for the first time. Their eyes got huge taking in the view, the fancy furniture, all of it. You've done really well, Dad said, sounding weirdly jealous and proud at the same time. What do you want? I didn't offer them a seat or anything. They looked at each other like they were deciding who would speak. Mom's eyes got all watery. We miss you, Ryan. It's been 2 years. Whose fault is that? I shot back. Dad sighed. We know we screwed up. Missing your graduation was... We should have been there. We've had a lot of time to think about everything. How we treated you growing up. It was never just about graduation, I said, feeling like a broken record. It's my entire life being treated like I didn't matter. We know, Mom said, staring at the floor. We understand that now. I crossed my arms. So what changed? The articles about me? Seeing my success? Because you didn't care about understanding until I started making good money. Dad's face got red. That's not fair. Seriously? You're here because you need something. Just tell me what it is. Money. Mom wiped her eyes. Your father's business is failing. We might lose the house. We had to sell my car already, and Jenna had to drop out of grad school because we can't pay for it anymore. And there it was. The real reason. Not because they missed me or regretted anything. They needed a bailout. So you thought I'd just write you a check? After everything? We're your parents, Dad said, his voice getting that authoritative tone he used when I was a kid. Family helps family. I actually laughed out loud. Family helps family? Where was that attitude when I needed you? Where was that when you picked Jenna over me every single time for 20 plus years? We made mistakes, Mom was practically begging now. But people change. We've realized what's important. No, I shook my head. You haven't changed. You're still just looking out for yourselves. The only difference is now you need me instead of the other way around. I walked to the door and opened it. Time for you to leave. Dad's face got hard. That's it? You're turning your back on us when we need help? After everything we did for you? That was the last straw. What exactly did you ever do for me, Dad? Seriously. Name one time you put me first. One time you chose me over Jenna. He opened his mouth, froze, then closed it again. Couldn't think of a single example. Yeah, that's what I thought, I said quietly. Get out. Mom was full on crying now. Please, Ryan. We have nowhere else to go. For half a second, I almost felt bad for them. Almost. That sounds like a you problem, I said. Maybe ask your favorite child for help. After they left, I called Uncle Rick right away. You told them where I live, I said, still annoyed. He sighed. Look, kid, I thought it was time. They're in serious trouble, and they are your parents, even if they've been shitty ones. They only showed up because they wanted a handout. Probably, he admitted. But people sometimes do change when life knocks them on their ass. Not saying you should help them, just saying maybe hear them out. I thought about it all night. The next morning, I typed up an email. I'm not giving you money. Not because I don't have it, but because cash won't fix what's broken between us. I've spent 2 years building a life without you, and I'm doing great. I don't hate you anymore, but I don't need you either. Figure your own shit out. Don't contact me again. Hit send, closed my laptop, and felt this huge weight lift off me. Done. Finally done with all of it. I went on a date that night with this cool girl from my climbing gym. Smart, funny, no drama. For once I was excited about my future, one I built myself without their bullshit holding me back. So that's it. My whole story. You guys think I'm an asshole for not helping them? Or did I do the right thing walking away? Not looking for validation or whatever, just curious what others would do. Edit. Wow, this blew up. Thanks for all the comments and support. For those asking about Megan, she ended up dating one of my college friends a few months later. Heard she still mentions me sometimes, wondering where I disappeared to. As for my family, Uncle Rick says they had to sell the house and move to a smaller place. Dad's working for his former competitor now. Jenna moved back in with them. Karma's a bitch, I guess. Story 5. This story is titled, My Wife Laughed to Her Friends and Family. He Can't Please Anyone, so I stopped pleasing her. So I, 34 male, didn't mean to hear it. I swear I wasn't trying to eavesdrop or anything. I was just in the kitchen washing dishes while Jessica, 32 female, my wife of 8 years, had her friends and family over. It was a Saturday night, and I'd spent most of the day helping set up for this dinner party she'd been planning for weeks. I'd grilled the steaks, medium rare, exactly how her dad likes them, helped clean the entire house to her exact specifications, and even put out those stupid decorative hand towels in the bathroom that no one is actually supposed to use. The dinner itself went fine. I sat there, smiled at all the right moments, laughed at her brother-in-law's terrible jokes, and kept everyone's drinks filled, being the perfect husband, like always. After dinner, I offered to clean up while they all moved to the living room for dessert and coffee. No one objected. No one even thanked me. It was just expected. I was in the kitchen, up to my elbows in soapy water, half listening to the conversation drifting in from the living room. They were laughing, the kind of laughter that always made me feel like an outsider, even in my own home. Jessica's sister Emma has this really distinctive laugh, like a hyena that smoked 2 packs a day for 20 years. I could pick it out anywhere. She was laughing the loudest. Then I heard Jessica's voice cut through. He can't please anyone anyway. That's what she said. All casual like, you know? Like it was just a fact everybody already knew. And then they all laughed. Like they all agreed with her. Even her mom, who I always thought liked me. Her mom, who I'd helped move apartments last month, spending an entire weekend carrying heavy furniture up 3 flights of stairs because the elevator was broken. I just stood there gripping the sink, my knuckles turning white, a plate dripping in my hands. I'm not a small guy. I played college rugby and still hit the gym 4 times a week. But in that moment, I felt fucking tiny. I waited for her to say she was joking or something, to add a just kidding or, but he tries so hard. But she never did. She just moved on to some other topic like she hadn't just punched me in the gut with her words. I finished washing that plate, dried it carefully, and set it in the cabinet. Then I washed another. And another, methodical, focused. Like if I just concentrated on this simple task, I wouldn't have to think about what I'd just heard. But the words kept echoing in my head. He can't please anyone anyway. The worst part? This wasn't the first time. This was just the first time I actually paid attention. It was like someone had finally adjusted the focus on a camera I'd been looking through for years. And suddenly everything was crystal clear. Every dismissive comment, every eye roll, every sigh of disappointment. It had all been there all along. I just hadn't wanted to see it. Before I get into what happened next, let me give you some background. Jess and I met when I was 26 and she was 24. I was working as a financial advisor at this mid-sized firm, making decent money but nothing crazy. I wasn't some Wall Street bro, just a regular guy helping regular people figure out their retirement plans and shit. I was good at it, though. Had a way of explaining complicated financial stuff that didn't make people's eyes glaze over. I met Jessica at a mutual friend's wedding. She was a bridesmaid. I was a groomsman. Classic setup, right? She was this gorgeous blonde who worked in marketing for a luxury clothing brand. Way out of my league, or so I thought. When she agreed to dance with me at the reception, I thought our friend must have put her up to it or something. When she gave me her number at the end of the night, I was sure it was a fake. It wasn't. We went out the next weekend. I spent 3 hours getting ready for that first date. 3 hours! For a guy who usually just throws on whatever's clean, that should tell you something. I tried on every decent shirt I owned. Got a haircut the day before. Actually Googled the restaurant to make sure I was taking her somewhere nice enough. The date went well. Really well. She laughed at my jokes, touched my arm a lot. All those signs that she was actually into me. I couldn't believe it. I kept waiting for the catch. For her to reveal she was just doing this on a dare or something. But date 1 turned into date 2, then 3. Then before I knew it, we were exclusive. Looking back now, there were red flags. On our 4th date, I took her to this Italian place I loved. Family-owned, amazing food, but not fancy. She picked at her pasta, made a comment about how she usually went to the one downtown, the one that cost 3 times as much. When I got her flowers for Valentine's Day, she mentioned her ex always got them from some specific florist I'd never heard of. Little things. Things I brushed off because, well, she was Jessica, and I was just grateful she was with me. We got married 2 years later. I thought I'd hit the jackpot. My parents loved her. My mom especially was thrilled I'd found someone so accomplished and beautiful. Her parents tolerated me. They never said anything outright negative, but there was always this undercurrent of Jessica could have done better. Her dad was a successful surgeon. Her mom came from old money. I was solidly middle class with student loans and a Honda Civic. After we got married, things moved fast. We bought a house in a neighborhood we couldn't quite afford because Jessica insisted it was where we needed to be for her career networking. I worked my ass off to give her the life she wanted. I put in 60-hour weeks to climb the corporate ladder so she could have the kitchen renovation she wanted, the vacations to resorts in Mexico, the designer bags. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy those things too, but man, most of the time I was doing it for her. I remember this one vacation in Cancun, 5-star resort, ocean view room, the works. Cost me nearly a month's salary. I was stressed the whole time about the money, but seeing her happy, actually genuinely happy, made it seem worth it. She spent the entire week posting photos on Instagram. Blessed, hubby does it right, living my best life. Looking back now, I can see how it started small. A comment here, a look there. The way she'd sigh when I gave her a gift, the way she'd compare me to her friends' husbands. Ryan took Sarah to Paris for their anniversary. Jason just got promoted to VP, always making me feel like I wasn't quite measuring up. And like a fucking idiot, I just tried harder. By year 5 of our marriage, I was exhausted, constantly walking on eggshells, constantly trying to anticipate what would make her happy, what would set her off. We went to therapy briefly. Her idea, after I forgot our anniversary. I remember sitting in that office, listening to her list all the ways I'd failed her, nodding along like she was right, promising to do better. The therapist, a woman around our age with these huge glasses, asked Jessica what she appreciated about me. There was this long pause. Like, uncomfortable long. Finally, Jessica said, "He's very reliable, and he's good with money." Like I was a fucking Honda Civic. Reliable. Good mileage. Nothing special, but gets the job done. We stopped going after 3 sessions. Jessica said the therapist was clearly biased because she'd asked Jessica to also work on communication. God forbid anyone suggest that Jessica wasn't perfect. By the time that dinner party rolled around, we'd been living separate lives in the same house for months. I worked, went to the gym, came home, watched TV in the basement while she did whatever she did upstairs. We hadn't had sex in, I don't even remember how long. Months, at least. I'd tried to initiate a few times, but her rejections had gotten more and more brutal. So eventually I just stopped trying. It wasn't a marriage anymore. It was a business arrangement. I provided the lifestyle, she provided, well, I wasn't sure what she provided anymore. The illusion of a perfect life for her Instagram followers, I guess. After everyone left that night, I couldn't sleep. Jessica fell asleep almost immediately, like she always did. Out like a light at 11:30, regardless of what was going on. I lay there next to her, staring at the ceiling, her words playing on repeat in my head. He can't please anyone anyway. The thing is, I'd always thought of myself as pretty easy to please. I didn't need fancy stuff. I was happy with pizza and beer for dinner, watching a game with friends, simple things. But somehow, in Jessica's narrative, I had become this impossible to please person. Someone who could never be satisfied, no matter how hard she supposedly tried. And apparently, everyone we knew believed it. I started thinking about all the times she'd made me feel small, all the eye rolls, all the sighs when I didn't do something exactly right, all the sarcastic jokes at my expense. I remembered her birthday last year. I'd planned this whole surprise weekend getaway to Napa. I'd researched wineries, found this boutique hotel with amazing reviews, even arranged for a private wine tasting tour. When I revealed the surprise, showing her the itinerary I'd worked on for weeks, she just sighed and said, "Couldn't you have booked the resort I showed you instead of this place?" I remembered cooking a steak dinner for her after taking an actual cooking class to get better. She always complained about my cooking. I'd practiced for weeks, getting the sear just right, making this complicated red wine reduction sauce. She took one bite, made a face, and pushed the plate away without saying anything. Just ordered takeout like my effort meant nothing. I remembered dressing up in my best suit for her company party, the one she'd been stressing about for weeks because her boss would be there. I spent 30 minutes on my tie alone, making sure it was perfect. As we were about to leave, she looked me up and down and said, "That tie doesn't really go with that shirt, but whatever. We're already late." I spent the whole night feeling like everyone was staring at my apparently mismatched tie, one memory after another. Just this highlight reel of every time I felt like crap in our marriage. The time she corrected my pronunciation of a wine in front of her friends. The way she'd answer questions directed at me, like I couldn't be trusted to speak for myself. How she'd check my work emails before I sent them to make sure they sounded professional. The constant stream of little criticisms, my haircut, my posture, the way I loaded the dishwasher. And yet I kept trying anyway. I kept telling myself that she was just stressed, or that she didn't mean it the way it sounded, or that if I just tried harder, she'd finally look at me the way I always looked at her. But laying there that night, watching her sleep peacefully like nothing had happened, I finally got it. It was never about what I was doing wrong. It was about the fact that nothing I did would ever be good enough for her. I wasn't the problem. I had never been the problem. For the first time in our marriage, I felt angry. Not the flash-in-the-pan frustration I'd felt during arguments, but a deep, simmering rage. I'd given her everything. My time, my energy, my fucking soul. And she'd just taken and taken and taken, all while making me believe I was the selfish one, the difficult one. I got out of bed around 3 a.m., careful not to wake her. I went downstairs and sat in the dark living room, where hours earlier I'd been humiliated without even knowing it. And I drank. And for the first time in a long, long time, I thought about what I wanted. Not what would make Jessica happy. Not what would avoid her disappointment. Just what I, Mike, actually wanted. And what I wanted was out. I woke up the next morning on the couch, my neck stiff. For a second, I was disoriented. Then the events of the previous night came flooding back, and with them, a strange sense of clarity. I wasn't hungover. I'd only had the one drink, but something had definitely shifted inside me. I checked my watch. 6:15 a.m. Jessica wouldn't be up for hours on a Sunday. She liked to sleep in until at least 9, then spend another hour scrolling on her phone before she'd even consider getting out of bed. I got up, showered, and then went out. I didn't leave a note. Didn't text her to say where I was. Just put on my shoes and got the hell out of the house for a few hours. When I got back, Jessica was in the kitchen, still in her silk pajamas, hair perfectly tousled like she'd stepped out of a shampoo commercial even though she'd just woken up. She had that look on her face, the one that meant I was in trouble. "Where were you?" she demanded. "I woke up and you were just gone. No note, no text, nothing." Before, I would have apologized immediately. I would have fallen all over myself explaining, making excuses, promising never to worry her again. But this time, I just grabbed a water bottle from the fridge and drank half of it before answering. "Went out," I said simply. "For over 2 hours?" Her voice had that edge to it, the one that usually made me scramble to smooth things over. Yep, I started making breakfast, deliberately not looking at her, not engaging with her annoyance. Well, I needed you here, she said. My parents are coming over later, and I wanted you to help me move the furniture in the living room. I want to try that arrangement I saw in Architectural Digest. This was classic Jessica, making plans that involved my labor without bothering to check if I was available or willing, expecting me to drop everything to fulfill her latest whim. Before, I would have rushed to help her right away, maybe even skipped breakfast to make her happy. But this time I just said, I'll help you after I eat. She looked at me like I'd grown a second head. But they'll be here in 2 hours. That's plenty of time, I said, making my breakfast calmly. Besides, you could have texted me if it was urgent. I shouldn't have to text my own husband to be where he's supposed to be, she snapped. I finished making my food, then looked directly at her. And where exactly am I supposed to be, Jessica? At your beck and call 24/7? Her eyes widened. In 8 years of marriage, I'd never spoken to her like that. Hell, I'd rarely spoken to anyone like that. I'd always been the peacekeeper, the people pleaser, the guy who'd rather swallow his own feelings than cause conflict. What is wrong with you? She asked, her voice quieter now, uncertain. Nothing's wrong with me, I said. I'm just tired. I'm going to eat now. After breakfast, I helped Jessica move the furniture. But I did it my way, suggesting a different arrangement than what she'd seen in the magazine, one that made more sense for the actual space we had. To my surprise, she didn't fight me on it. She just watched me with this strange expression, like she was seeing me for the first time. Her parents came over. I was polite but not fawning like I usually was. When her dad started in on his usual subtle digs about my career, how's the financial planning business? Still telling people to save for retirement? With that condescending laugh of his, I didn't just smile and take it. It's going well, James, I said, using his first name instead of sir, like I usually did. Just helped a client navigate a 7-figure inheritance last month. Saved him about $150,000 in taxes with some creative planning. James blinked, clearly not expecting me to actually stand up for myself. Well, he said after a moment, good for you. The rest of the visit was tense but uneventful. When they left, Jessica rounded on me. What was that about? She demanded. What was what about? You know what? You were different with my dad. With me. What's going on with you? I considered giving her some excuse. Stress at work, not feeling well, anything to avoid the real conversation. But I was done avoiding. I heard what you said last night, I told her. At the party. She frowned, genuinely confused. What did I say? He can't please anyone anyway. I quoted her exact words, her exact tone. Her expression shifted from confusion to recognition to defensiveness in the span of seconds. That was nothing. Just a joke. It didn't sound like a joke, and no one laughed like it was a joke. You're being too sensitive, she said, waving a hand dismissively. It wasn't a big deal. It was to me, I said quietly. And it made me realize something. You don't respect me, Jessica. You haven't for a long time if you ever did. That's ridiculous, she scoffed. Of course I respect you. No, you don't. You criticize everything I do. You put me down in front of your friends, your family. You make me feel like I'm never good enough, like I'm always failing somehow. I don't do that, she insisted, but there was a flicker of something in her eyes. Guilt, maybe, or just annoyance at being called out. You do, and I've let you because I've been so fucking desperate for your approval that I've lost myself completely. I ran a hand through my hair, feeling both drained and strangely energized, but I'm done with that now. What is that supposed to mean? She asked, her voice rising slightly. It means I'm done trying to please you. It means I'm going to start living for myself again, not for your approval. She stared at me for a long moment, then her face hardened. Is this some kind of midlife crisis? Are you going to go buy a motorcycle and start wearing leather next? I almost laughed at how predictable her response was. Immediate dismissal, trying to make me feel foolish for standing up for myself. No, Jessica. This is me finally seeing our marriage clearly. This is me deciding I deserve better than being your emotional punching bag. You're being dramatic, she said, but I could see a flash of fear in her eyes. She was losing control of the narrative, of me, and she didn't like it one bit. Maybe, I said, but I'm still done. I slept in the guest room that night, and the night after that. Jessica alternated between icy silence and attempts to pick fights. I didn't engage with either. I was polite but distant, like we were roommates rather than spouses. It was the beginning of the end, though I didn't fully realize it yet. Over the next few weeks, I kept up my new approach. I wasn't trying to be an asshole. I wasn't playing games or trying to get back at her. I just stopped bending over backwards for someone who never even tried to meet me halfway. At home, I stopped walking on eggshells. If she made a sarcastic comment, I didn't argue or try to prove her wrong. I just let it hang there until she realized I wasn't going to react. "That shirt makes you look like you're trying too hard," she said one morning as I was getting dressed for work. Before, I would have changed immediately. This time, I just looked at her, shrugged, and said, "I like it." Then I went downstairs and made my breakfast. I stopped filling the silence when she sighed dramatically, waiting for me to ask, "What's wrong?" I stopped apologizing for stuff that wasn't my fault. I stopped sacrificing my own comfort just to make her comfortable. And that's when she started to really notice. It began with little jabs. "You've been acting weird lately." What's gotten into you?" "You're being a jerk. You know that?" I think at first she thought it was temporary, like maybe I was just in a bad mood or going through some phase. But as days turned into weeks, she realized this wasn't temporary. I wasn't the same guy anymore, and that bothered the hell out of her. She tried different tactics. First, she tried to seduce me. After weeks of barely acknowledging my existence physically, suddenly she was walking around in lingerie, accidentally brushing against me in the kitchen, suggesting we take showers together. I wasn't made of stone. Part of me, a significant part, if I'm being honest, wanted to give in, not just for the physical release, but because it would have been so easy to fall back into our old patterns. Sex, followed by a brief period of what felt like connection, followed by the slow slide back into emotional manipulation and control. But I didn't give in. I was polite but distant. "Not tonight" became my go-to phrase. Each rejection seemed to shock her more than the last. In her world, male sexuality was a weapon to be used against men. Offer it and they'll do anything. Withhold it, and they'll fall in line. The idea that I could say no, repeatedly, was completely foreign to her worldview. When seduction failed, she tried guilt. She started bringing up my parents, who adored her. "Your mom called today," she'd say casually. "She asked how we're doing. I didn't know what to tell her." Or, "Don't you think your dad would be disappointed in how you're acting?" This one was harder to resist. My parents had raised me to believe that marriage was forever, that working through problems was just what you did. The thought of disappointing them did weigh on me, but then I'd remember the years of subtle humiliation, of feeling like I was never enough, and I'd stay firm. "My parents want me to be happy," I'd say. That's all. When guilt didn't work, she tried fear. "You know you'll never find anyone else like me," she said one night, after another failed attempt to get me to open up about what was really going on. "God, I hope not," I replied before I could stop myself. Her face crumpled, and for a moment I felt terrible. But then her expression hardened. "You think you're so much better off without me? Good luck with that. You'll be begging to come back within a month." "I don't think I'm better than you, Jessica," I said tiredly. "I just think I deserve better than this. Than us." "So that's it? 8 years of marriage and you're just giving up?" "I'm not giving up. I'm just finally acknowledging what's been true for a long time. We don't make each other happy. We haven't for years, if we ever did." She had no response to that, because deep down, I think she knew it was true. She started testing me, throwing out little barbs to see if I'd bite. "You never do anything right. You'd be lost without me." "God, you're impossible." Before, I would have jumped to defend myself. I would have tried so hard to prove her wrong, to convince her I was good enough. But now, I just looked at her, let her words sit there, and then moved on like they meant nothing. Because they didn't. Not anymore. The first time I just looked at her and walked away, I saw something flicker across her face. Not anger, not frustration, uncertainty. And that's when I realized she'd always been in control. Not by force or direct commands, but through expectations. She had shaped me over time, worn me down like water on stone, until I was someone who never questioned, never pushed back, never existed outside of what she needed me to be. But that version of Mike was gone, and she had no idea what to do with the new one. One weekend, about 2 months into this new normal, I decided to visit my brother in Chicago. He'd been asking me to come see their new house for months, but Jessica had always found a reason why we couldn't go. Too busy. Bad timing. She didn't like my sister-in-law. Whatever. This time, I just booked the flight. I told Jessica on a Monday that I'd be gone that Friday through Sunday. "You're going to Chicago? This weekend?" She looked stunned. "But we have the Andersons' dinner party on Saturday." The Andersons were her boss and his wife. Important for her career, completely irrelevant to mine. "You have the Andersons' dinner party," I corrected her. "I'll be in Chicago." "You can't just not go," she sputtered. "Martin specifically asked if you'd be there. He wants to talk to you about their retirement planning." "He has my email for that," I said. "I'm sure you can explain that I had a prior commitment." "A prior commitment?" You just decided this. No, Jessica. My brother has been asking me to visit for months. I've been putting it off for your convenience. I'm not doing that anymore. So you're just going to embarrass me in front of my boss? Make me go alone like some sad single person? You're not single, I pointed out. You're married to someone who has their own life and their own family. Sometimes those things won't align perfectly with your career networking. She stared at me like I'd suggested we start sacrificing kittens in the backyard. The idea that my needs, my relationships, might sometimes take precedence over hers was completely alien to her. If you leave this weekend, she said finally, her voice low and dangerous, don't bother coming back. I looked at her for a long moment. Is that really how you want to play this, Jessica? Ultimatums? It's not an ultimatum. It's a fact. If you choose your brother over me, over us, then we're done. I took a deep breath. My brother isn't a choice. He's family. Just like your sister isn't a choice for you. The fact that you see my wanting to maintain my relationship with my own brother as some kind of betrayal says everything about where we are right now. That's not what I meant, she backtracked slightly. Of course you can see your brother. Just not this weekend. Not when it's important for us to be at this dinner. Important for you, I corrected. Not for us. Not for me. My career matters too, Mike. I never said it didn't. But so does my family. So does my life outside of being your husband. She threw her hands up in frustration. I don't even know who you are anymore. That's the thing, Jessica. I'm not sure you ever did. I went to Chicago that weekend. The entire time I was there, Jessica alternated between angry texts demanding I come home immediately and wounded messages about how hurt she was that I'd abandoned her. I responded to neither. Then came the anger. One night after I got back, I was sitting on the couch, watching the game and having a beer, completely unbothered. She was pacing around, huffing under her breath, and I could feel the tension building. You don't even care about this marriage anymore, do you? She finally snapped. I looked up at her. I could have said a lot of things. I could have denied it, tried to soothe her like I always did. I could have pretended, just to keep the peace. But I didn't. Not the way it is now, I said simply. And that's when she lost it. Not violently, but in a way that told me she finally realized she had no control left. She threw every accusation she could think of. How I was cold, how I had changed, how I was selfish and distant and different. You're not the man I married. That one made me pause. Because for the first time in a long time, I looked at her and agreed. No, I'm not. That guy let you walk all over him for years. I'm done with that. Her face went white. In 8 years of marriage, I had never spoken to her like that. 3 weeks after our confrontation, I was served with divorce papers at work. Classic Jessica move, trying to embarrass me in front of my colleagues. I just signed for them, thanked the courier, and went back to my meeting. My boss, who had met Jessica at company events and clearly never liked her, just gave me a nod of respect. I moved out that weekend, got a decent apartment closer to my office. I expected to feel devastated, but mostly I felt relieved. I started sleeping better, started smiling more. My buddies noticed the change. Dude, you seem like your old self again, my friend Dave said one night over beers. And I realized he was right. I was becoming the guy I used to be before Jessica. Confident, laid back, actually enjoying my life instead of constantly worrying about measuring up. I hired a good lawyer and prepared for war. Jessica had always threatened that she'd take me for everything if we ever divorced. I wasn't about to let that happen. I had documentation of my contributions to our lifestyle, records of how my income had supported her shopping habits and expensive tastes. I wasn't trying to screw her over, but I wasn't going to be screwed over either. But here's where karma stepped in. 2 months into our separation, Jessica's company announced major layoffs. The luxury retail market had been hit hard by a recession, and her firm was consolidating. She was one of the first to go. Her fancy marketing job with the expense account and company car? Gone. A week later, I got a text from her asking if we could talk. I agreed to meet her for coffee, in public, with witnesses, because I wasn't an idiot. She looked terrible. The designer clothes and perfect makeup couldn't hide the dark circles under her eyes, or how thin she'd gotten. She'd always been slim, but now she looked fragile, breakable. For a moment, I felt a pang of concern. Despite everything, I had loved this woman for nearly a decade. Seeing her suffer didn't bring me the satisfaction I might have expected. I've been doing some thinking, she said, stirring her latte nervously. Maybe we rushed into this divorce thing. I almost laughed. You filed, Jessica, not me. I was angry, she said. You changed so suddenly. I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't change, I said. I just stopped putting up with being treated like shit. She flinched at that. Good. I lost my job. she admitted after a moment of uncomfortable silence. The severance isn't great, and the housing market is horrible right now. So selling the house? And there it was. Not, I miss you, or I realize how badly I treated you. Just, I need your money. That sounds tough, I said, finishing my coffee, but it's not my problem anymore. Her eyes widened. Mike, please, I don't have anywhere to go. My parents are in Europe for the next 3 months. Emma's place is tiny. I can't afford the mortgage on my own. You should have thought about that before treating me like your personal doormat for 8 years, I said, standing up. You're smart, Jessica. You'll figure it out. She actually started crying then, right there in Starbucks. The old Mike would have caved immediately. We could try counseling, she said desperately. I'll change, I promise. I've already started talking to someone, a therapist. She's helping me understand why I behave the way I do. It's related to my childhood, to my father's expectations. Stop, I interrupted. I don't need to hear about your therapeutic breakthroughs. It's too late for that. It's never too late, she insisted, reaching for my hand across the table. I pulled it back before she could touch me. People change, Mike. I'm changing. I can be better. We can be better together. I looked at her for a long moment. You know what? I believe you might try, for a while, until things got better for you, until you felt secure again. And then we'd be right back where we started. No, it would be different. It doesn't matter, I cut her off. Because I don't want you back. Not now. Not ever. Her face crumpled. I think that was the first time in her life someone she wanted hadn't wanted her back. I still love you, she whispered. No, you don't, I said, not unkindly. You love what I provided. Stability, adoration, financial support. That's not the same as loving me. I walked out of that Starbucks feeling 10 feet tall. My lawyer called the next day to say Jessica was suddenly open to a much more reasonable settlement. Funny how that works. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. Jessica had to move out of our house. She couldn't afford to buy me out, and I had no interest in keeping a place with so many bad memories. We sold it at a slight loss due to the market, split the proceeds according to our agreement, and went our separate ways. Through mutual friends, I heard she had to move to a crappy apartment in a less desirable neighborhood. She found a new job eventually, but at a much smaller company with a significantly lower salary. Her Instagram, which had once been full of vacation photos and designer purchases tagged number blessed, became quiet. No more carefully curated images of her perfect life. No more thinly veiled brags disguised as gratitude. I'm 35 now, single, but dating again, taking my time. The divorce was finalized 6 months ago. I bought a smaller house in a neighborhood I actually like, close to my friends. I'm dating a woman now, Allison, 33, a pediatric nurse with a wicked sense of humor and the kind of genuine kindness that Jessica could never quite manage to fake. It's early days, but it's good. Easy in a way things with Jessica never were. Allison laughs at my jokes, tells me when I'm being an idiot in a loving way, and seems genuinely interested in what I think and feel. The first time she asked, "What do you want to do this weekend?" and actually waited for my answer, I nearly proposed on the spot. Last month, Jessica texted me out of the blue. She'd heard through our mutual friends that I was seeing someone new. I hope she makes you happy, she wrote. Then immediately followed it with, my lease is up next month and I'm having trouble finding a new place. Could you maybe co-sign for me? Just as a favor for old time's sake. Some people never change. I blocked her number. Sometimes I think about how close I came to spending my whole life trying to please someone who was never going to be pleased. How one overheard comment at a dinner party changed everything. It wasn't just about standing up to Jessica. It was about remembering who I was. A man with self-respect. A man who doesn't need someone else's approval to feel worthy. And that, gentleman, is worth more than any marriage, house, or lifestyle. Edit. Holy shit. This blew up overnight. Thanks for all the awards and messages, bros. To the guys asking if I'd ever take her back, hell no. And to the dudes saying I should have confronted her the night of the party. Maybe, but I'm kind of glad I didn't. That slow burn realization was what I needed to really see the whole pattern. Edit 2. Since so many people are asking for updates, Jessica texted me again last week with, "Have you been getting my messages? My housing situation is getting desperate." I haven't responded. According to my buddy whose wife is friends with Emma, Jessica's sister, Jessica's been telling people I'm going through a phase and that I'll come to my senses eventually. Keep dreaming, honey. Edit 3. For everyone telling me Allison is a rebound, maybe, but she doesn't feel like one. She knows everything about my marriage and divorce. We're taking it slow. And no, I'm not jumping into another serious relationship right away. I learned my lesson about rushing into things. Edit 4. Jesus. RIP my inbox. Can't respond to everyone, but thanks for all the support. To the few people defending Jessica, you're entitled to your opinion, but unless you've been in a relationship with someone who constantly makes you feel like you're not good enough, you don't get it. This wasn't just about one comment. It was about 8 years of subtle and not so subtle emotional abuse. And no, I'm not saying I was perfect. I enabled it for years. That's on me. But I'm done feeling guilty about finally standing up for myself. Story 6. My parents choose their new families over me. So I moved in with my aunt. Now they want back in, but I hate them. Hey, so I'm a 16-year-old girl, and when I was 15, I had to go live with my aunt. This all happened because my parents got new partners and started new families. My dad got together with the woman he was seeing while still married to my mom, and she already had a son from before. Now, they also have a baby girl together. On the other side, my mom married my stepdad, and they have my half-sister now. After all this mixing and matching of families, it kind of felt like I was just an extra piece in their new lives. They seemed pretty eager to send me off to stay with the other family, almost like they wanted to forget I was around so they could get on with their happy new family vibes without me. I got really tired of feeling like I was just in the way, so I started spending a lot of nights at friends' places. And whenever I was at either my mom's or dad's house, I just kept to myself and didn't really talk to anyone. So after I started spending more time away from home and keeping to myself, my parents thought I was just going through some rebellious teen phase. They'd always argue with me. I wasn't causing any trouble or being a bad kid, but somehow I ended up being seen as the problem child in the family. Every time I talked to my parents, it turned into them lecturing me about how I have an attitude problem and how the other kids are so much better behaved. I was so over it that I just packed my bags and left for a few days without telling anyone where I was going. I hopped on a bus and came back home after 4 days. Obviously, my parents freaked out and even called the police since I disappeared. When I showed up again, I walked right into yet another lecture. Things got really heated, and we ended up yelling at each other. They called me a disappointment, and I told them I hated them. I was so upset that I called my aunt, crying my eyes out, and she came to pick me up right away. On the phone, I could hear her giving my parents a piece of her mind for the way they were treating me. After I moved in with my aunt, neither of my parents really tried to get me to come back home. We made it official and told the people who needed to know, so now my aunt is legally in charge of me. My parents were pretty hit or miss with staying in touch. They would pop up now and then, sometimes giving me some money, but it felt like they only showed up when it was easy for them. They've started trying to reach out more lately, but honestly, I'm just not interested. I won a story writing contest not too long ago, and I kept it to myself. I didn't tell my parents or invite them to the little celebration that was held for it. The story is up online for people to read, and in it, I made sure to thank my aunt for always being there for me, for her unconditional love. I didn't invite my parents to my 16th birthday party either. It's like I've just cut them out of my life completely. I'm not interested in what's going on with them, their new families, or anything related to them. My mom tried to meet up for my birthday, but it didn't happen. When my mom reached out to me, overwhelmed with emotion and crying on the phone, I found myself completely detached from the situation. It was as if I was merely an observer, watching a dramatic scene unfold on a television show. This emotional display, meant to pull at my heartstrings, left me unaffected. It was a stark realization that the emotional bond that once tethered me to my mother had frayed beyond repair. She, who played such a significant role in my life's narrative, had become a distant figure, no longer central to my emotional well-being or daily thoughts. Similarly, when my dad expressed his concerns over the phone, his words were intended to bridge the chasm that had widened between us. He voiced worries about my well-being and my seemingly cold detachment as indicators of an unhealthy state of mind. Yet his concern, though perhaps genuine, echoed hollowly in my ears. The emotional disconnect was so profound that his words failed to stir any sense of urgency or distress within me. It underscored a poignant truth. My aunt had unequivocally taken on the role of my sole guardian, not just in legal terms, but in every aspect that mattered. My aunt, a beacon of unwavering support and understanding, has always advocated for reconciliation with my parents. She believes in the healing power of mending fractured relationships, but also respects my autonomy, never coercing me into interactions I'm not ready for. Her approach is grounded in empathy and patience, allowing me the space to navigate my feelings and decisions at my own pace. The attempt at reconciliation took a dramatic turn when, unexpectedly, my parents intervened in my daily routine, pulling me from the familiar environment of school to confront the emotional turmoil that had been simmering beneath the surface. We met at a restaurant that held memories of happier times, a place that once symbolized familial unity and love. The emotional weight of the moment was palpable, with my mother's tears and my father's pained expression serving as silent testaments to their regret and desire for atonement. They extended heartfelt apologies, laying bare their vulnerabilities in an effort to bridge the emotional gulf that had widened between us. They pleaded for a chance to rectify past mistakes, to rebuild the familial bonds that had been so carelessly frayed. Yet, despite the gravity of the moment and the sincerity of their pleas, my response was resolute. The journey I had embarked on with my aunt had provided me with a newfound sense of stability and understanding, a sanctuary from the turmoil that once defined my relationship with my parents. In that moment of reconciliation, I found the strength to assert my need for independence from the past and the emotional cycles that had once ensnared me. As I walked away, a mix of emotions churned within me. There was a sense of closure, perhaps, but also a profound acknowledgement of the complex tapestry of relationships and the intricate dance between forgiveness, healing, and self-preservation. My aunt's influence, marked by her unwavering support and unconditional love, had empowered me to choose a path forward that prioritized my emotional well-being and personal growth. Feeling resentful because I feel like my parents chose a new life over me isn't petty. It's a natural response to what I've been through. It's incredibly hard feeling like I'm on the outside looking in on my own family, especially when it seems like they're intentionally building a life that doesn't include me. That sensation of being unwanted, as though I'm an imposition rather than a cherished family member, cuts deep. It's as if I'm a guest who has overstayed their welcome, except the place I'm overstaying is supposed to be my home. I've lived with this constant feeling of tension, like I'm always walking on eggshells, trying not to cause trouble or be any more of a burden than I feel I already am. It's like when you're at a friend's house where you can tell their parents don't particularly like you, and there's this underlying stress that you just shouldn't be there. That's the feeling I constantly had at their houses. I know my stepfather doesn't really like me. My parents would argue over who had to keep me, but not in the way that anyone might want. It wasn't, I want to have her longer, but more like, I took her last weekend, it's your turn now. And then, adding salt to the wound, they'd plan fun activities for the day after I left. My father and his wife would often schedule visits to parks or plan bigger trips for the weeks I was with my mom, as if to emphasize my absence. My mom and her husband pretty much took every opportunity to leave me behind while they went out with the baby. It was like I was just an extra, easily shuffled off to grandma's or my aunt's with any excuse they could think of, just so they could do family stuff without me. Walking through our house, you'd barely find any photos of me. There were big portraits of my siblings, pictures of them together, but when it came to me, almost nothing. One summer, they sent me off to my grandparents for the entire break and only bothered to call twice. Family gatherings? I'd often find out about them after the fact, like the time my dad had a big family barbecue and didn't even invite me. Birthdays weren't much different. They've forgotten mine more than once, and on the off chance they remembered, I got something like a $10 Starbucks gift card, even though they know I don't even like Starbucks. So, no, they never outright said they wanted me out of the picture, but through their actions, they didn't exactly hide it either. Now for the top advice. Your aunt is the real MVP in terms of forgiving your parents. It's a decision wholly to yourself with your aunt's advice. Trust her advice more than the decisions of strangers on the internet who do not know the intricacies of this situation. You are 16. Trials like these are a part of developing into adulthood. I'm sorry you have to go through an extreme version of this. Have a gold on me for being one of the only rational responses to this post. My compliments to your aunt. She is the best. Honestly, yeah, your aunt sounds great. Sorry, your parents are horrible. Sometimes adults are nothing more than teenagers in adult clothing whining about their wants. You can have your parents in your life, as your aunt would suggest, but in the end, it's still up to you. Tell your parents they've put too much hurt into your relationship with them and that it will take much more effort and time to heal and build back that healthy parent-child relationship. Of course, it's still up to you to build that bridge back up, as you can build a relationship if one party is not willing. Hope everything goes fine and show your appreciation to your aunt. And congrats on the writing contest. Your parents made their bed. Now they need to lay on it. When people remarry and have kids with other partners, their previous kids don't suddenly start being their kids. To add on, if you don't want to have a relationship with them, just don't. There's no right or wrong on that one. You felt betrayed and basically a burden. If you do want a relationship with them later on, that's all up to you. Don't feel pressured. Next story. I'm 21 years old and just found out that my entire family was planning a big vacation. Guess how I found out? They told me because they needed someone to stay back and take care of our pet. Yeah, that's right. They were all getting ready to go have fun and I was just supposed to be at home, like some kind of pet sitter. Now, I should tell you that my brothers and sisters still live at our old house. And lately, I've been kind of doing my own thing. I haven't been around much. But finding out I was left out of the family trip made me feel super lonely and sad, like there was this big hole inside me. Even though I tried to act cool and like it didn't bother me, it really did. When they were all piling into the car to head to the airport, I just couldn't hold back the tears. My mom saw how upset I was, and they all started saying how much they loved me. The last time we all went on a trip together, I was about 13 years old. I was so upset that I started getting stomach cramps from crying so hard. I decided to send them a message to let them know how much it hurt to be left behind, hoping they'd understand. But the response I got made things worse. They told me I was ruining their vacation with my message and that I should just deal with it. They thought I wanted some time to myself. Looking back, I guess it wasn't the best timing to bring up how I was feeling right at the start of their holiday. I'm already feeling super left out because my family went on a vacation without me, right? And then they start sending me these pictures of them having the time of their lives. It's like all the sad and lonely feelings I've been trying to keep hidden just burst out. I've never felt so left behind before. It's like I'm not even part of the family anymore. Here I am, stuck at home looking after our pet, while they're off somewhere having fun together. It feels like my heart's been ripped out. Now I've come up with a plan. I'm thinking of leaving the pet with one of our relatives so I can head back to university. My hope is that by throwing myself into my studies, I can try to forget about how hurt I am right now. But man, how do I even start to forgive them for making me feel this way? Has anyone else ever gone through something like this? Edit. It's not like I wanted a free trip or anything. Seriously, I would have totally been okay with paying for my own stuff. The real issue here is about them, my whole family, deciding to go on this awesome family vacation and not even asking me if I wanted to come along. They even took my 19-year-old brother, and get this, he didn't even want to go. He was all like, I'd rather stay home and play video games. But there they are, having a blast. The entire family together. They said they took my brother because they wanted it to be a family trip, which kind of stings because it's like they're saying I'm not part of the family or something. Like, if it was just my sister going, I get it, maybe it's a sibling thing. But since it was everyone, it feels really bad being the only one left out. Now for their top advice. Did they tell you about the vacation before asking if you can watch the pet after? After? Have you asked them why you weren't included in the vacation? They thought I had other stuff to do. They also said they really thought I would be so happy being all alone in the house with my significant other. I don't understand why they thought that, because we lived together at uni. When I found out about it, they had already booked the tickets and hotel, so I had no chance of even rearranging my summer planning. Not that I had anything planned those dates anyway. We have a relative that wanted to care for the pad and could have all these dates. My plan right now is to leave the pet with a relative and go back to uni and dive into school to forget. Good plan. And if other family are around, it makes it a real WCF that OP's family didn't do that in the first place. Sorry, Up. My family did similar things when I was your age. I think it came from my mom's deep resentment about my being out of the house and independent. Let me ask, do your parents ever make nasty comments about how you're selfish for going off to college? Do they ever claim that you don't care about them? And then you have to scramble to prove that you're not a bad child for having an independent adult life? When I was a little younger than you, my grandmother, who I was very close to, fell in, was hospitalized. They didn't even tell me she was in the hospital and never apologized for keeping me out of the loop because it was my fault for leaving the family by going off to school. My parents had very skewed priorities, and my mom in particular tried to make me dependent on her and shamed me, if I seemed too independent in her eyes. Hopefully this doesn't ring a bell for you, but if it does, then they might have excluded you from the vacation as a way of manipulating you into feeling like you're an outsider to the family. If they can succeed in that, then they can make you feel like you need to grovel and beg to be included again. Edit. It's pretty cool how everyone shared their thoughts and gave me different ways to look at things. It's like a light bulb went off in my head, and I realized my feelings aren't just me overreacting. They're real and they matter. I've decided the best move is to sit down with my family and talk things out calmly. I want to let them know how left out I felt, but do it in a way that's peaceful, not starting a big drama. And you know what? Reading how many of you have been in the same boat, feeling left out and all, really tugged at my heartstrings. It's sad, but also kind of comforting to know I'm not alone in this. Big hugs to every single one of you who's gone through something similar. Being left out is the worst feeling ever. Seriously. Edit 2. I've been doing some thinking, especially after seeing what a bunch of people said about how, once you're an adult, you don't always get to go on family trips. This got me thinking that maybe this whole mix-up happened because of a bit of a misunderstanding. See, my mom might have thought that because I'm grown up, I've got my own stuff going on, maybe even my own little family, and that I wouldn't be all that bummed if they went on a trip without inviting me. But here's the thing. I want to shout out to everyone, especially to parents. Just because your kid heads off to college or starts doing their own thing doesn't mean they suddenly stop needing their family. Being away from home can be super tough. I know I really missed my family a ton. Getting invited to go on a family trip isn't just about the vacation. It's a big chance to hang out and spend some quality time together. It's super important to make sure nobody feels left out. Remember, just because someone starts their own family or life doesn't mean they're not part of the original one anymore. Let's make sure everyone feels included, okay? Now for the last story update. Pretty much everyone around me keeps saying my brother Tate is the superstar of the family. I'm talking about everyone. Our parents, all our relatives like cousins, aunts, and uncles, even the teachers at school. And to top it off, my own friends join in too. This whole Tate is better thing started when I was just 5 years old, and guess what? It hasn't stopped. The craziest part? My brother, Tate, has never once acted like he believes any of this stuff. He's never made me feel less than, which is why he's pretty awesome in my book. But here's the deal. Every time I look at Tate, I don't just see my brother. I see this giant reminder of everything I think I can't be. And the funny thing? It's not like he's out there winning Nobel Prizes or anything. He's still living at home with our folks. But for some reason, everyone acts like he's the golden child, which leaves me feeling like I'm, well, not. This whole situation has knocked my confidence down to zero. I feel like no matter what I do, I'm just going to end up failing. So, most of the time, I don't even try. Why bother, right? It's like there's this voice in my head that's constantly telling me I won't ever measure up. Imagine waking up every day to this invisible scoreboard where you're always a few points behind no matter what. That's pretty much my life. For 15 whole years, nearly every day, people around me have been making jokes or comments suggesting my brother is somehow better than me. They usually say it with a laugh, so every time they do, I try to show them I'm not okay with it. I don't laugh along. Or maybe I'll give them a look that says, not cool. But the only two people who have never joined in on this are my cousin and my brother, which honestly means a lot to me. There was this one time when my dad actually said out loud that sometimes he feels like he loves that cousin more than he loves me or my brother. Can you imagine hearing that from your own dad? Sure, he tried to walk it back a bit by saying, not more, just close to it, after he saw how hurtful it was. But that doesn't really make it better, does it? All these comments, these jokes, they've been weighing on me, making me feel pretty low. And it feels like I'm carrying all this heaviness inside without anyone to really talk to about it. Just packing up and starting fresh somewhere else isn't an option for me right now, so I'm stuck feeling this way and not sure how to make it better. Now for the top advice before reading the update. My mother is especially horrible about this with me, 32 female and my older brother, and always has been my entire life. She often comments to people that daughter is smart. Sure, but she has to work hard. Son is naturally brilliant, doesn't have to make an effort. This was last said at my son's birthday party to his friend's mother, who will never even know my brother. So, just to take a stab at me. We were at a family gathering once, and a friend commented on how I had grown into a beautiful woman. And my mother's response was, if you think she's pretty, wait till you see my son. He's beautiful. I relate to this post very much, and I know therapy is thrown around on this sub a lot, but I would be lying if I didn't say therapy helped me overcome so much pain from this type of parenting. I highly recommend it, and I am sending you a hug. I know how painful this can be. You should play the same card when describing parenting roles to other people in front of her. Oh, you think she was a good parent? You should have met my dad. Now, that's a role model. Are you no longer living with your parents? Ghost everybody. Man, go cold turkey. You can make it in life. You just need to work hard and go through the pain of growth. There will be times that you feel like you are hopeless and you want to give up. My advice is, do not give up on yourself. Once you reach that point of like everything seems to be crashing down, power through it, tough it up, and overcome those obstacles. You will be a much stronger person after going through those tough times. Mental strength is the best strength a person can have. It gives you stability and increase your awareness and makes you think more rationally. Right now, you are going through a very tough time, mentally and emotionally. Power through it, my friend. Concentrate on your own growth and happiness. Read lots of books in your field of interest. Go for long walks or runs. Even better, go biking. Be alone with your thoughts. Meditate. Always psych yourself up. If you are interested, I can message you a link to a YouTube channel I watch that motivates me as a man. I don't know if I can do all these things. I'm in college, so I don't know how I'll survive without their help. And now for the update. Hey everyone! First off, a huge thanks to all of you. The pep talk and encouragement were exactly what I needed to take the reins of my situation. I'm really sorry I couldn't get back to each of you personally, A bunch has been going on. So, here's what happened this morning, right before my dad and brother had to head off to their jobs. My dad, kind of out of the blue, goes, "Your brother's already landed a job. When are you planning on getting one?" Now, keep in mind, I'm swamped with college work because I'm in the thick of studying pretty much all the time. When he dropped that comment, it really got under my skin. But here's the thing. Armed with the boost of confidence you all gave me, I actually stood up for myself. I told him straight up that I'm not okay with the way they've been treating me. And guess what he says? He tells me he was just joking, and then drops this bomb that I'm still too young and he can't take me seriously. So here's what went down. I reached my limit and basically told my dad, "Forget this, I'm out," and started to pack my bags. He wasn't having any of it and tried to physically stop me, saying I wasn't allowed to leave. When things escalated and he started to get rough, I stood my ground, telling him he doesn't have the right to control my life like that. He even threatened that if I walked out, I'd be cutting ties with my family for good. In the heat of the moment, he looked like he was about to throw a punch at me, but my brother jumped in just in time, pulling him away and giving me a chance to breathe. They ended up having a major shouting match in another room while I quickly grabbed my things and left for a friend's place, not really knowing where else to go. My friend was a total lifesaver, skipping work just to make sure I wasn't alone in case things took a worse turn. He's told me I can crash with him for as long as I need to. All of this chaos unfolded in just a few hours, and it's left me feeling pretty shaken up. I'm even considering getting a restraining order because I'm not about to let myself be pushed around again. My phone's been blowing up with calls from my mom, but I just can't bring myself to answer. After today, I feel like I'm just done with them. I'm really hoping things don't escalate further from here. Update 2. So here's the latest update. I got in touch with my brother because there were some important papers I needed from him. We decided to meet up so he could hand them over. When we saw each other, we did chat for a bit. During our talk, he dropped a pretty big bombshell on me. He said that our parents don't want to see me again. Honestly, I was kind of okay with it, which might sound weird, but that's where I'm at. My brother also said that if I ever need anything, I should just give him a call. But between you and me, I don't really see that happening anytime soon. For now, I'm crashing with my buddy. The plan is to stay there till all this virus chaos blows over, and I can find my own place. He's been super cool about it, saying he's got my back for a month or two until I start getting my paychecks. After that, I'll need to chip in, which is totally fair. Oh, and guess what? I managed to land a job. It's not exactly the dream gig, and the pay isn't amazing, but considering everything that's going on, I'm not in a position to be picky. Looks like this is it, the start of my adult life for real. Now for the closing comments. At least you got a supportive brother with you on this new journey. Work hard and be super successful to the point where your entire family regrets putting you down. That's the best revenge. Would love a final update in the near future. Living well is the best revenge. Good luck out there. Call your brother. He wants your success and will help raise you up. Stay in contact with your brother. He didn't do anything wrong. Screw your parents, though. You will regret it in the future if you abandon your brother. I promise you this. It's not the brother's fault that the parents have deemed him the golden child. Not only that, but he's actively helping Opie and seems to be completely supportive. Hold on to him. I cut and ran when I was 17 with nothing and a baby to escape the hell of my family. You're going to be all right, man. Edit. I've been seeing a bunch of people telling me that I should make sure to keep talking to my brother, right? Well, let me set the record straight. There's no way I'm ever going to just stop talking to my brother. He's my bro and I love him a ton. He's always been there for me like a rock. No matter what crazy stuff I've gotten into or what decisions I've made, he's had my back through it all. Right now, he's pretty much the most important person in my world. When I mentioned before that I might not call him, I didn't mean I was cutting him off or anything like that. What I actually meant was that I'm not planning to lean on him every time I hit a rough patch. I've made up my mind to tackle things on my own, to figure stuff out by myself. It's not about not wanting to talk to him. It's about wanting to stand on my own 2 feet for a bit. For sure, keeping in touch with my brother is something I plan on doing, no matter how things go. I've also noticed a few folks think I might have overreacted to the whole situation with my dad. But here's the deal. My dad was literally about to throw a punch at me. It was super intense, and if my brother hadn't been there to step in, I'm pretty sure things would have gone south really fast. That's why I knew I had to get out of there. And about the job thing, it's not like I was against the idea of working. I've actually been on the lookout for a job that fits with my schedule, especially one that makes sense for me. But with the whole virus situation messing things up, finding a job hasn't been easy. My dad knew all about my job hunt and how the virus was making it tough, but he still chose to make jokes about it. Not cool. Anyway, I really appreciate everyone who took the time to leave supportive comments, and even those who offered some tough love or critical points of view. It all helps me think through things and figure out my next steps.